The Blind of Kentucky is now in order.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Jackson, President of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. And Scott, can you turn up the volume maybe a little bit?
I don't know which one's the volume knob, but I'll try. Let me see.
I think it's good.
There's like 6 knobs on there.
I know. Wait a minute. Did I plug this? It's on the back here, I know. Tone, echo. Here it is. It's this one.
Oh. I don't know what, this one here?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that.
I'll try adjusting it.
Let's try this again. Still? Is that better?
That's better.
All right.
all the way up.
All right, let's try this again then. So again, welcome to the 71st Annual Convention of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. And I'm so pleased to see so many of you here this morning after that raucousy luau last night. I think we had a good time. We will begin with our invocation. George Stokes, National Federation of the Blind of Frankfurt.
I'm going to give everybody a chance to stand up, if you would, please, and bow. And good morning to everyone.
Morning.
Almighty God, thanks and praise for enabling us all to be here on our 71st meeting of National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. I know we've had a lot of problems through this year and a lot of sickness, a lot of individuals passing away, and we want to ask your guidance through these bad times. And we look forward to good times and what we have to bring forth in our meetings today, and ask your guidance in everything that we do and all the decisions that we make. And we give thee thanks and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please remain standing.
We'll have the singing of our national anthem by Sandra Williams, National Federation of the Blind, Greater Louisville.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave through the night, but our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay. All right, if you want to stay standing, we are going to have the singing of My Old Kentucky Home, and I'm pleased to welcome to our convention a first-timer, a member of the Ashland chapter, Lisa Doran. Darren, Diane, Lisa, come on, girl.
Oh, the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. 'Tis summer, the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the meadows in the bloom, and the birds are singing all the day. Weep no more, my lady, weep no more for today. We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home far away. The young folks roll on the little cabin floor, all merry, all happy and bright. By and by, hard times come a knock at the door, then my old Kentucky home, good night. Weep no more, my lady, we weep no more today. We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home far away.
All right. If you'll stay standing just one more minute. Something I failed to put on the agenda. And if you'll look in the back of your agenda, we need to do our NFB pledge. So if everybody, I pledge to participate actively in the efforts of the National Federation of the Blind to achieve equality, opportunity, and security for the blind, to support the policies and programs of the Federation, and to abide by its Constitution. Thank you, and be seated. Yeah. And that might be the last time you get to stand for a while. I would like to ask Nikki Pearl, President of the NFB of Greater Louisville, to come and welcome you this morning. She's on her way. She's on the move, I'll just hand you the microphone, you can turn around, and you don't have to come behind the table.
Good morning. Good morning. Who has a Hawaiian hangover? Well, I want to welcome everyone to Louisville once again. Very glad that this room is quite full. All your faces are bright. Had a wonderful time last night. Really enjoyed everyone's participation and fun. Once again, our Greater Louisville Board is here if anyone needs anything. And welcome. Let's have a great convention.
Yeah. Okay, Nikki, you may as well stay up here. If the presidents of the chapters and divisions would come up, you don't have to come behind the table. You can just stay. Yeah, we can just pass the microphone up and down. We're going to do roll call of chapters and divisions. So start making your way, please. We need Ashland, Frankfort, Greater Louisville. We need entrepreneurs, sports and rec, and technology. Y'all can just, And NAPUB, yeah. Okay.
Narrow aisle. very narrow.
I'm just
Do you want us on this side or that side?
just stay out front. There's no sense everybody trying to come. Oh, okay. All right, so I just turn around, walk to your right, and just turn around and face the audience. Okay. Everybody up here? I'm just going to hand you all the mic, and you can just pass it down the line.
Okay.
We'll start here with Laura.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Laura Stevens, and I'm the president of the NFB of Ashland. We're excited that our chapter, who has pretty much always been the smallest chapter, and still probably one of the smallest, but we now have 16 members, which is pretty exciting for us. We have 8 of our members here. We'd hoped some others were going to get to come, but they weren't able to make it. In the past year, we've done some pretty exciting things. We had our first annual walkathon in June. We raised some money for our chapter to help get us here to convention. We walked around Central Park in Ashland, and that's going to be an annual event for us. And we are planning an activity on November the 3rd at our public library. And it was supposed to be a Meet the Blind Month activity, and we had the library scheduled, and they called and said we couldn't have the room that day, so we had to go to November, but that's okay. So we're going to have a belated Meet the Blind Month activity. So we're really excited, and we're happy to be here and hope everybody has a wonderful convention.
Just go down the line.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Todd Stevens, and I am the treasurer of the Entrepreneur Division. I'm giving this report on behalf of Michael Freehome. The Technology Assistance Division, the Entrepreneur Division, and the Office for the Blind of Kentucky, Kentuckiana Works, all partnered together to present a wonderful job fair. And I would say that the highlight of the highlight for the Entrepreneur Division is the attendance of the Kentucky Business Enterprise Program. Corey Markham, who's he's been the director for about a year, came and participated in the job fair, and I think that everything just went splendid yesterday. We didn't have all of our vendors show up, but I think it was a really good mix of intimacy, where everybody was engaged, and I think everyone had a good time. As far as the Entrepreneur Division is concerned, we are really struggling right now. Entrepreneur is a big phrase, and it means to organize and to operate a business or a business idea. So that really leaves a lot of room for many of us out there. And I encourage you tomorrow to join us at 10 o'clock so that we can get this division growing, because the division is really as good as its membership. And we've got a limited amount of members, and I know that a lot of you have great ideas, so I would like to invite you to come tomorrow to join us to share those ideas so that we can grow. As I'm also president of the Technology Assistance Division, I'm going to let Danielle concentrate on the outreach and training that we did. So I'm going to pass it on, and everybody have a great convention.
Good morning. My name is Jane Seif. I am the president of the Sports and Recreation Division. We met last night. We had a lovely meeting. I think there was somewhere around 20 people. I wasn't really counting. Thank you. About 21 folks. We divided into 3 teams. We did a scavenger hunt throughout the hotel, and one of the braver younger teams actually went next door to the shopping complex and did a scavenger hunt over there. They actually passed out Colonel books, introduced themselves to people, told people who we are and where we were from. It was amazing. It made my heart happy that we have come so far. We are very active. If you're looking for us on Facebook, that is the best way to find us. As always, you can contact any one of us, and we will be happy to help you out. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm president of the Frankfurt chapter, and I'm happy to be here as usual. We've been fairly busy lately. We've donated $100 to the resource office for social ministries. I can't remember what it stands for, so I always have to write it down. Anyway, they are responsible for helping people pay their electric and gas, and they make sure that you absolutely need the money. They pay your bills. They don't give you the money to pay your bills. And we really like them. And then they decided they wanted to do their application in Braille. So we thought that was great. We also attended a Citizens Academy. The police came. We had a 4-week, not every day, but a once a week class. It was so fun. We learned a whole lot of stuff about the SWAT teams and how they work. And we actually get to graduate on October 22nd. Is that right, guys? I'm pretty, yeah. So we're really excited about that. It was fun. And I encourage you all to get out and they do it here, I think, in Louisville as well. So it was really fun, and they were all really, really nice. And they're going to take a bunch of us when they have the time, you know how that goes, and show us how to shoot a gun. So that sounds like fun. Anyway, it's fun. It was really awesome. And that's what I said. Are you all sure you really want to teach several blind folks? Yeah, no, I don't blame you, Kathy. I'd be afraid too. All right, and don't forget we are raffling off $500. Who could not use $500 for $5 a ticket? So thank you all, and I'll talk to you later. Who's next?
Hello, it's Nikki again. Here in Greater Louisville, we have been busy, steadily growing again, getting new members, some past members coming back to see us, to visit us, to share our Federation spirit again, and very happy about that. We've had several family activities over the summer. We went bowling. We had our family picnic. Like Jane says, it warms my heart to see our chapter kind of going through our rebuilding. So, I'm sorry. Thank you all again for being here, and look forward to spending the day with everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I am Angela Henderson. I am the president of our National Association to Promote the Use of Braille in Kentucky division. This year we have been focusing on our Bell program, which was fantastic. Each year that we've held the program, it has grown exponentially, and you're going to hear a lot more about that later. So we had, 5 kids this year, Jane, correct? Six. Thought I was off. It's okay. So we had 6 kiddos this year, and you all will hear a lot more about that later. So have a good morning.
Yeah, okay. Bring it back down this way, Nikki. We've got Danielle's going to do, I think, technology.
Hi everyone, it's Danielle. For TAD, we did a couple of trainings for Kentucky School for the Blind students. We did one in December and we did one in May. And the one in December focused primarily on the Braille Note Touch. I was program manager for this and made a training curriculum for those students to teach them how to use the Braille Note effectively in the classroom. In May, we did a little bit different. Me and Laura Stevens went down, and we kind of did a combination of Braille Note, voiceover, and NVDA, and we rotated students on. We had a much larger group, and we are looking forward to doing more training in the future with KSB.
Thank you all, and glad you're here and gave reports of what's happening around the state. My bad. We need to draw for a couple door prizes. Yes. You must be in the room, or we draw again.
We're going to do a dot.
Dot 1, dot 6, what dot? Heck, I know what you mean. Oh, 1, 2, okay. All right, when you're ready to draw. Okay. All right, do one more real quick, please.
Only hear a little bit, the rest I'm not sure.
Come on. I know it's my fault. I kind of caught you all off guard, but. I think both.
Might be my phone, so I'm tied into the phone instead of my laptop over there. My laptop is
Well, let's go on. Y'all just get a couple of them ready. Are you ready? Maybe we'll have to fix you all up back there, do something better. Let's move on. Get some ready, and we'll do some. I don't want to get behind just because we're hunting door prizes, but it's always our pleasure to introduce our national representative. It's impossible for President Riccobono to attend every state convention. He would be spreading himself pretty thin this weekend. There's several being held, including in Indianapolis. So those of us who are on the national board or working in our national office, or oftentimes he might send someone who was previously a board member, but it's our privilege to be able to represent President Riccobono and the National Federation of the Blind at state conventions, to share with you some good old homespun NFB philosophy, and to let you know what is going on the national level. And it is really a pleasure for me to introduce our national rep, Anil Lewis. We served on the national board together for a few years, and at the time we were on the board, we were the only two single people on the board, so we used to joke about that a lot. But anyway, Mr. Anil Lewis, without further ado, if you would, do you want to sit at the table and hold the mic, or come up here? Okay. Is there a mic stand there? There is. All right, here we go. You can adjust it. The podium right in front of you, and then adjust the mic to your liking.
I got to lower it a little bit because Kathy's so tall. Yes. Wait. All right. How's that? Is that good? No. This might be. Okay. Well, then I may need to do it this way then. All right. All right. If you guys only realize the posture I had to do. It's like I'm genuflecting, I've just been converted. I'm Catholic now for the moment of this presentation. Good morning, NFBK, Kentucky. Yeah. I'm loving being here. I was telling Kathy last night that as I've served as a national representative for so many years, since I was elected to the board back in 2003, I've been to almost every state, plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, but I've never been to a state convention here in Kentucky. This is my first time. And that leaves Maine and Indiana left in my list of getting there. But I'm really pleased to be here for several reasons. As I reflected when I was talking yesterday as well, I feel like I'm part of Kentucky. In 2002, I was a national scholarship winner, and I took home the big money at the Louisville Convention. And in 2003, I was elected to the board of directors here at the Galt House at the Louisville Convention. So I think I'm honorary, so I need to pay up my dues. That's right. Yeah. Look, somebody just jumped around. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Wow. All right, I'm not mad at you. Raise money. Yeah, build membership. That's great. I will pay my dues. Do you guys have the lifetime ability here? No. Yeah. Oh, you don't have the lifetime dues? Okay. Well, good. That's good. That means I only have to pay the $5 this year just to get out. It's all good. But the fact that this affiliate exists, it doesn't happen by circumstance. It's not something that happens organically. It really requires a lot of leadership, a lot of strong leadership. And you guys are blessed to have President Kathy Jackson leading this affiliate, yes, for so many years. Absolutely. Yep, and she is a joy to work with. She's no nonsense, though, so you got to be careful about that, But once you get over the mothering of Kathy Jackson, you can really get to the sense, and what a wonderful sense of humor she has as well. And again, it's not just the leadership on the local level that makes the difference. It's our national leadership, that brings together a cohesive. Pardon? Oh my goodness.
Yes, I'd like fries with that.
Yeah. Okay. This is getting even more and more interesting as it goes. Again, the leadership that's necessary to weave together this cohesive network of 52 affiliates across the country also doesn't happen organically. And we are blessed in this organization to have leadership by President Mark Riccobono. And as Kathy already said, he sends his regrets that he cannot be here, but his loss is my gain. And he is in D.C. at this time, so I'm sure that he wishes that he was here, because this has got to be the better convention. Yeah, we're streaming, right? Oh, Sean, I was only kidding. Each and every convention is... But I met Mark way back in 1999 during a leadership seminar. And it was even then, that I knew that he had a spark of leadership that was going to benefit this organization. And it's very interesting that when we met back in 1999, little did we know that both of us would end up back at our national center, employed there, helping build and grow the movement. So I really take honor and I'm humble with respect to my opportunity that's there to serve as the executive director of the Jernigan Institute. The National Federation of the Blind, to me, I could tell you so many different stories, and I'll get a chance to share a little bit at the banquet this evening, but I really have to candidly say, and it's not an over-exaggeration, that had it not been for the National Federation of the Blind, I would not be here today. The National Federation of the Blind has helped me with respect to pursuing my post-secondary education. It's helped me deal with an ordeal coming through a divorce and being able to eventually be the custodial parent of my son, who's now 21 years old and graduating college in May. So hopefully he'll be out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and get off the payroll, start making his own money. But I mean, even him and his life and his success, he wouldn't be where he is today had it not been for the Federation. And I'm just filled with hope, energy, and love by my participation in the National Federation of the Blind, because my expectations are raised, my contributions make a difference to myself and to others, and I can celebrate the accomplishments of my dreams with my Federation family. And part of that during my growth in the organization was due to our immediate past president, Dr. Mark Maurer, who, God bless him. I mean, he took me under his wing, along with others in this room. I'm sure it's amazing the capacity that our leadership has to mentor so many different individuals. But had it not been for him and the personal relationship that we've established, again, I would not be here today. He is, I think, the national rep in Indiana. So we have the trifecta going on between two individuals that I really appreciate the fact that they've had such a positive influence. So let's talk about the National Federation of the Blind. Everybody knows our new tagline: live the life you want. That's what I'm all about. I'm living the life I want. I'm not going to make the mistake I made yesterday and talk about the vacation I just came from. But I just want you to know that due to the Federation, I am living the life I want, because the National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines me or my future. And you are your future. See, every day we raise expectations for blind people because we realize it's those low expectations that create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. And you can live the life you want, and blindness is not what holds you back. And I've come to believe that. But just for the sake of this meeting, because there are some new people that are probably here for the first time maybe, if someone would have come to me in 1989, when I had just recently lost my sight due to retinitis pigmentosa, telling me that blindness is not what holds you back, I would have said, you need to get back. So I think that it's important for us to understand where people are. We want to bring them into this movement, to bring them into this understanding, to get them to embrace the philosophy of the National Federation of the Blind. And we want them to recognize that membership in this organization has value. So President Rico Bono is working with Jeannie Massey and others to make sure that there's a more welcoming kind of induction piece to this organization so that individuals don't just come to a meeting, recognize we either have some good food or some good company, and say, yeah, I want to be a part of that. We want them to know what they're really being a part of. It's a social change agent. It's a systemic change entity. It's a powerful organization of blind people moving us into a place where we can really, control our own destinies. So that whole process that we're developing will make sure that that person coming on board recognizes that and feels appreciated. So you look forward to more information around our new induction ceremony. It'll be talked a little bit later on the agenda, but there's been a lot of scuttlebutt around our code of conduct. It's really interesting to me that as I talk to people about it, they state like it's something new, like it's something that the Federation is finally getting around to doing. But in my experience in the organization, I felt we've always had a code of conduct. I think that we've always moved to a place where we like to respect everyone. As I was telling Kathy again yesterday, sometimes I get very close to that line, but it's just in the matter of, just joking around or kidding around. But in doing that, I may not have recognized that those words that I felt may have just been humorous may be offensive to others. So I think that the code of conduct just helps us solidify what we had already in place. And as we talk about it more later today, hopefully people will come to a greater understanding about it. You guys are lucky. You're here at the state convention of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky, and you get to get access to some information that other people are still waiting on. So let's see if I can share a little bit. Well, people already know about this one. Did everybody go to the 2018 National Convention in Orlando, Florida? All right. You guys ready to go back to Orlando? No. Well, that's good because we're not going back to Orlando. In 2019, the National Convention of the National Federation of the Blind will take place from July 7th through July 12th in lovely Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works. I think that we may need to put a couple of slot machines in the back of the convention hall just to make sure that people don't have to make a choice. But I think that we as an organization are mature enough to recognize the purpose of the National Convention is to set the policies and the agenda of the organization, and people will be present and active as always. But I do believe that it's probably going to be one of our largest conventions. I'm so sorry. Let me find my place again. But our largest convention was previously in New Orleans. So I'm thinking that we're going to break those numbers, and I think we got well over 3,000 people in New Orleans. So well over 3,000 in Las Vegas. So you don't want to miss out on that. Now let's talk about some of the things that maybe you may not be aware of unless you've really been plugged into a lot of our communication vehicles. The Association of Education and Rehabilitation for the Blind and Visually Impaired, AER, is in the process, their leadership rather, is in the process of trying to resurrect the National Accreditation Council. Now, many of you may not know the history of the organization, but years past, when I first started coming into the organization in the early 90s, it was the tail end of our advocacy against NAC. The National Accreditation Council was an entity that was attempting to determine the criteria by which blindness organizations could be assessed. But their assessment did not include active participation of the nation's blind. The National Federation of the Blind was offered token representation on this group, and we refused to participate because we didn't want to rubber stamp something that we knew was not going to be impactful to blind individuals. We thought that it was done. One of my first advocacy efforts in the National Federation of the Blind was the NAC tracking that we did down in Florida. And so we thought it was dead. But there are those who want to resurrect it. NAC, come forth. And we don't want any of that to happen right about now. So one of the things that we're working on, I'm just assessing the crowd, just trying to see where I can go with this. So So just to be clear, we're not anti-AER, and I think that people need to understand. I'll elaborate on that a little better. But we are anti anybody trying to accredit any place that services blind individuals or provides services to blind individuals that does not have the active involvement of the nation's blind. It's ridiculous to think that they can do that. So we're going to shut it down. We're going to shut it down. And I love the leadership that President Rico Bono has displayed, because what he did was, rather than the traditional going out and picketing, which we can still do and we love to do, we did not want to make the professionals that found AER as their professional home to get caught up in the melee of our opposition to NAC. So we went to the AER conference, and we had a space in the exhibit hall, and we had a resolution that we had passed, we got passed at that conference as well. And the beauty of it is, not only did we interact in the exhibit hall and let people really get to know the Federation from the Federation, because so many people have known about the organization, but they've been told by people who don't like us. So it's better for us to tell that story. So outside the exhibit hall, we also hosted a reception, and that room was packed. And I was just so impressed with so many of the teachers of blind students and the TVIs, I'll elaborate on that a little bit too, that were there and really came to understand us, and really a lot of their misconceptions about our organization, just in that social interaction alone, were set aside. I mentioned briefly the difference between teachers of blind students and teachers of the visually impaired. So in AER, they really prefer the TVI name. In the organization, in the National Federation of the Blind, we tried to say teachers of blind students. So I met with one of the TVIs on the AER, which we're developing good relationships so we can have these honest, candid conversations. And I asked her, I said, Ting, I see you call yourself a teacher of the visually impaired. She says, yes. I said, well, we use the term teacher of blind students. She says, I understand. I said, are you offended by that? And she says, no. I said, well, why is it that you as a professional can't embrace that? She says, because I teach other students other than blind students. See, so this was the epiphany. She didn't understand that we in the National Federation of the Blind, when we say blind, we mean all blind individuals regardless of their visual acuity. So she was saying that she has some low vision students as well. Well, we still embrace those that consider themselves low vision. We start using a lot of that. But what we try to tell people is that our perception of blindness relates to anyone who cannot read or do anything with normal vision or corrective glasses, because there's non-visual interventions that helps those individuals be more productive. And then also, even in the realm of low vision, there's still some things that need to be taken into consideration so they can still access information just like the sighted. But it was an interesting conversation, and I think it brings us closer to a place where we can really work together proactively. So that's AER and NAC. The other thing, many of you may be aware of this or may not be aware of this, is the Ability One program, which used to be under JWAD, the Committee for Purchase from people who are blind and severely disabled. Just operates a lot of the industries around the country. And they have been in the process of trying to find another central nonprofit. So you may know the National Industries for the Blind. They kind of coordinate all of the nonprofit organizations that hire blind individuals in those industry programs. Give me some names. There's got to be some here in Kentucky. Is there industry? LCI? Okay, that's a big one. So we want to be respectful of our blind brothers and sisters that are working for these industries and making sure that they have quality work environments. So we've been working with the National Industries for the Blind to get them to encourage all of these entities to discontinue using the Section 14C sub-minimum wage provision. Really good progress that we've been making. But all of a sudden, Ability One thinks, oh, we need another central nonprofit other than NIB. And they went behind closed doors and they awarded this opportunity to the American Foundation for the Blind, which you may not realize they've had a diminished footprint. They've been restructuring themselves under the new executive director, but they've had to sell off a lot of their assets. So this was really kind of a lifeboat for them. But they have no proven history of working in the employment space, no proven history of working in an environment which employs blind individuals. They had a research background, so the agreement was framed as though it's research. Well, we as an organization were not afforded the opportunity to bid on this opportunity, so we have taken steps to request information on how this process took place. And we've also filed a complaint about the Administrative Procedures Act against how it was conducted. So we're looking to make sure that things are done transparently in the light of day, And that, again, we as blind individuals get to play a role in making sure that these decisions are done in a way that help us move forward. You'll hear more about that as we move forward as well. Some of the other nice, fun stuff we've been doing, you guys are aware of the Kellogg's Rice Krispies Love Notes? You get a little braille and a little audio recorder. I didn't get any Rice Krispie treats. I'm kidding. I was gobbling those things down. So I think that's good because it's crossover. It's educating the public about Braille and blind individuals. Another thing that we've done, promoting Braille, you may have seen this in the news as well. The Baltimore Orioles, God bless this team. Yeah, that's probably the only time they've gotten cheered this season. But they did. They took the initiative to put Braille on the back of the jerseys of the players, which I thought was pretty cool. And President Riccobono got to throw out the first pitch of this game. And from the mound, he almost got the strike zone. He was just a little out of the strike zone, which I thought was really important. People were afraid that the Orioles were going to recruit him on site. But because of that, and I have to say, we also ended up auctioning off the Braille jersey. So we're waiting to see what that financial increase was. But as a result of that, we've been asked even more by other mainstream corporations to try to partner us with more of that Braille advocacy. So I think that's wonderful. How many guys out here are using IRA? Really?
Has anybody used it this weekend?
Yeah. So IRA is a way that you can use your smartphone to access an agent. Sometimes you can use glasses, but you can also use the smartphone to access a remote agent. And the thing with IRA is these agents are trained. They sign agreements of confidentiality. So it's a lot of those things that you would be worried about that are taking place. But it allows you to, as Dr. Maurer says, and I like this analogy, rent vision. Yeah, and he says he's been renting vision all of his life, but now, he can access some eyes at any point, any time. It's 24 hours. So I thought that's pretty cool. So IRA has worked with us, become a really good partner, and we have an IRA NFB plan. So this plan lets you put designate your home and your work environment so that it's the use of it is free. As a matter of fact, it's free here at this state convention. You get 160 minutes of airtime outside of those places where it's designated as free, and this is at a cost of $99 per month. So we're working with them to come up with some different framework to do this. As you come to the National Center, that's also a IRA-free zone. Like I said, the state convention is IRA-free, and there's some others, airports, etc. So it's a way to, like I said, rent vision whenever you need it. A lot of people in the beginning were using it as a navigation tool, which I don't, you have to be careful with that because you don't want to. You have to have really good travel skills and not be dependent on this virtual sighted person, because you might be in the middle of the city and your battery may die or the signal may go dead, and if you don't have good travel skills, you're in a bad situation. I was reflecting on code of conduct. So we're making sure that we do that. We're making sure that we put people in a place where they can use the technology in a way that balances their fundamental skills. So I encourage you to try it. It's pretty cool. Now this, I'm pretty sure you do not know. And I'm glad that it's okay for me to say it. How many of you are familiar with the Newsline service? Okay, cool. For those of you who don't know, Newsline is an invention of the National Federation of the Blind that lets blind individuals access over 500 newspapers and magazines through a touch-tone telephone, a smartphone, or over the computer. It's a wonderful way of getting access to information. There's a job line feature that allows you to search for and apply for jobs. There's also an emergency weather alert system that's part of that. So it's a really all-purpose kind of vehicle. We're going to be increasing the usability of the Newsline by offering those who have the Newsline app will also have access to the KNFB Reader optical character recognition software. So that's usually been a $99 package. It's not going to be the full KNFB Reader package, but it's going to be enough so that you can snap a photo of something and read it. For those of you who don't know, the KNFB Reader is an app that's on your smartphone. I can hold it over printed material, double tap, and all of a sudden it's reading that information to me. It's really great. The thing I love about it is it's kind of an equalizer. I go to many meetings, and as much as we try to advocate to make sure there's accessible materials in that meeting, they'll inevitably hand me a print agenda. So with the KNFB Reader, I can snap a photo of the agenda, and then with this refreshable Braille display I'm using here to read these notes, I have an instant access to a Braille copy of that agenda. So this is the stuff that we're doing as an organization, making sure that blind people can live the lives they want through innovative technology that we're developing. We also developed the Canopy Reader. We're working on the parental rights legislation. I know that Kathy mentioned that she's working to develop relationships with some of your local legislators to make sure that blind babies are not taken away from blind parents from the birthing room. In addition to that, I think that the balance of that, we also have a blind parents initiative. I've had several conversations with some individuals, and I never thought about it, but it was real to me as well. There are many blind individuals out there who, based on society's perceptions, are put in a place where their children are at risk. I've served as an expert witness in several cases where we were just trying to get babies back to parents because people just thought they couldn't be good parents and took the kids away. But the other piece that came out of this discussion is there's probably some young people out there who also may not really understand how blind people can parent, that may be making conscious decisions not to become parents because of that fear. I never thought about that. So we're also having that Blind Parents Initiative interact with individuals to give them information so that they're not afraid to make sure that they can be the wonderful, loving parents that we know they all can be. So those are kind of the new, kind of subtle updates. Now it's my turn as a national rep to give you some of the reporting about the National Center. An opportunity to educate you guys about some of the stuff that's going on. Many of you may know a lot of these programs, but many are not. In the guide that we give to the national representatives, the legislative stuff is listed first. But I'm going to take advantage of this because I'm the executive director of the Jernigan Institute to talk about the Institute programs first. How about that? Nah. John Perret should be here if he wanted the legislative stuff to come first. In the Jernigan Institute, we deal with education, employment, and research programs that are going to help change the lives of blind individuals. So I like to put it in a framework more chronological because we do deal with blindness from birth to earth, from womb to tomb. And I talked to you guys about some of the stuff we're doing with blind parenting. But as a sighted parent of a blind child, there's no experience there. So first we try to get them networked with our National Organization of Parents of Blind Children. And I'm hoping that soon we'll be having a Kentucky Organization of Parents of Blind Children. Because it's only by working with the parents that we can start setting high expectations for their blind children. Otherwise, it's only natural out of ignorance to make sure that this blind child is safe and protected. Every parent wants their child to be safe and protected. But it doesn't serve that you tell the blind child to sit here and not actively explore their environment. It doesn't serve that you have the blind child stand away and not touch anything because we have to experience stuff tactilely. So we try to give the parent that education and those tools, and we try to make sure the parent recognizes that they should set high expectations for their blind child just like they would for a sighted. And we offer assistance to that end. We want the children to be literate, so we provide our Braille Reading Pals program that gives Braille books, twin vision books to blind parents. I love this because it's print on one side, Braille on the other. So the sighted parent can read to the child, and the child, as they grow older, can experience the Braille and eventually learn to become literate. I use this same tool, by the way, as a blind parent to teach my sighted son to read, and he was reading at 2 years old. And not The Tale of Two Cities, but, sounding out words and the Jack and Jane, that kind of thing, but at least got him to a place where he could be competitive with his other peers, and we want blind children to be able to do the same. We also want the parents to recognize they should be their child's first travel instructor. So we have the Early Explorers program where we send little bitty canes. Well, to them, they're long white canes, but they're itty bitty, cutest little things. And again, we're not wanting toddlers to leave the front door. Mom, I'll be back. I'm going to go down to the store. But we want them to have the cane in their environment, right, so that it's not a foreign tool and they've learned how to use it kind of organically, and the parent can help them use develop some touch techniques. And this is to confront, I've heard stories of how some blind kids weren't given a cane until they're graduating high school. And that's just ridiculous. So as we get them through that initial early enrichment period, they're going to go into the school system and we want to continue to reinforce Braille. But unfortunately, in many instances, either because the child has enough residual vision or because there are not enough school teachers to teach Braille, which I was so impressed with the number of teachers of the visually impaired that you guys have in this area. We got to try to get that nationwide. They don't get Braille instruction. So it's not enough for us to say, oh, that's just the way it is. So we've developed Braille Enrichment Literacy Learning Program, our Braille Academies, rather, that we host throughout the country. And it's a 2-week enrichment program where we have the kids exposed to Braille. 2 reasons. One, we like to do it in the way that we like to do it because we can also overlay other alternative skills of blindness training. So they're in this 2-week, and, of course, they're not going to become overly literate, but they're getting exposed and some of the myths are being dispelled. But we also teach them how to cook and do some travel stuff so that they come off not just more academically able, but also socially able. We continue to do that, and the real big outcome is hopefully when they go back to the school system, now that next IEP meeting, they're advocating that Braille instruction and orientation and mobility are all put in their plan. So that's the big systemic impact there. We continue to fight. Thank you. We continue to fight for individuals that have quote unquote low vision. I mean, how many of you know the kids that if they can put the paper up to their nose, the school system says nope, they don't need Braille. And they're leaning over like Quasimodo to read their textbooks. Nope, don't need Braille. Gonna need back surgery in a few years, but no Braille is necessary here. So in order to combat that, we established our National Reading Media Assessment. And it's not supposed to be the sole learning media assessment, but it's definitely the best tool to determine when individuals can benefit from both print and Braille. Why people are opposed to adding more tools in the student's toolbox is beyond me. I don't know why people are continuing to fight that a sighted person, a person with low vision who can read print, still can't benefit from Braille. When I was losing my sight at 25, I had a window of opportunity where I was able to read a CCTV screen, but I had case files. And in order to get those case files, if I was going to look down, I had to get down in the lotus position, down to that file cabinet with a big, huge magnifier just to read the label on that file. And I just started Braille labeling my file folder so I could reach down, grab the appropriate folder, and put it under the CCTV. Talk about increasing productivity. So we're making sure that happens. We also are securing National Science Foundation grants that are helping us provide STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics opportunities for a lot of our blind students. We're having the STEMEQ stuff that's going on. We're bringing kids in. We just recently brought kids. Can someone give me a time check? Because I didn't bring my watch. Where am I? What time is it? Okay, good. Thank you. I want to make sure I have 5 minutes to talk about John's stuff. No, I'm kidding. Thank you. So the National Science Foundation grant allows us to help blind students experience these STEM opportunities. We just recently had one where we had kids come in, and the grant we're on now is called Spatial Abilities Blindness Engineering Research, SABRE. And we're teaching kids, blind kids, about how to be architects, basically. And we're not only just doing the drafting, which we'll talk about that, but also investigation around policy. They're looking at building ordinances. It's just amazing. And these kids are so darn bright. We had a little expo where they had to build, you know how architects do build those little faux makeups of what they're constructing out of, cardboard or whatever. So we had the kids doing this, and then we had them all had a little table and had a little expo. And I was walking around looking at really good construction of these pieces. But I stopped by one young lady, and she's saying, here, notice how the corners of my structure here are curved. Research shows that curved corners create a calming environment for individuals. And I said, oh, that's really nice. She said, and also notice the windows, they're tinted on both sides. It allows a person to see out, but it keeps the sunlight from the damaging rays of the sun to come through, but it still allows the vitamin D. I'm like, are you kidding me? These kids are amazing. But if we weren't supporting them toward developing that, look at all the talent that would be lost. But again, in our programs, we're balancing this intellect with common sense. So we have those kids participating in the evenings and outings, walking around, learning how to deal with the public attitudes and blend in and that kind of thing. So we build a better, well-rounded blind student. We also want to continue to build tools that help in the post-secondary education environment. One of the things we like to do is empower individuals to be their own self-advocates. So we developed the Self-Advocacy and Higher Education Toolkit. So a lot of college students are using this as a resource to make sure that they can get their post-secondary institutions to come up to speed. And it's not that the post-secondary institutions don't want to. Many of them just don't know how to. So again, we develop a resource for them. It's the Higher Education Accessibility Online, this is long in my Braille display, Resource Center. Whew. So that lets the colleges go and pull down information to talk about acquisition of accessible educational software, learning about how to make classrooms more accessible. And the beautiful part about this, and I can say this over and over, a lot of things that we do, is when we're making things accessible to blind individuals, it's not just solely benefiting blind people. It's benefiting everyone. A lot of the interventions that we put into place not only help blind students, but it also helps the sighted students access to curriculum as well. End all be all. Why do you go to school? Yeah. Some people say to acquire knowledge. Okay, that's good, but that's not going to pay the bills. Yes, you get that light bill and you say, yes, I do know pi to 20 decimal point. No, that's not going to keep your lights on. To get a job, one of the biggest barriers that we face is ignorance for one, the discrimination that's pure, and also the development of the blind individual. Many of you may know the statistic that there's 70% unemployment of blind people. And they say, just as an aside, that of the 30% that are employed, this is research-based, that 90% of them know Braille, which means there's a direct correlation between Braille and gainful employment. But how many students in the school system are being taught Braille? Less than 10%. I mean, that's a systemic discrimination. That's already predestining them to at least underemployment, if not unemployment. So we're fighting that Braille fight, as I talked about all those things. But we also have to work to develop that blind person to be more employable. Because of that 70% that's unemployed, it's not like they're all waiting around and the employers won't hire them. Many of them have false perceptions of their abilities. I've talked to blind individuals, and this is not necessarily solely their fault. They've gone through a training program. They learn how to use Microsoft Word and Microsoft Outlook. And there's sighted people around them saying, you're amazing. You should be somebody's administrative assistant. No, that's that's the beginning of a skill set that may get you employed as an administrative assistant. But there's so many other things. But because they have that false illusion that that's what they should be hired for, they're applying for these jobs, and they're thinking that the employer is discriminating when the employer is only saying, you don't meet the fundamental skill set I need to hire for this position. Who best to tell them other than other blind individuals who know? So we have to work to make sure that we provide training, support, and really tough love to those individuals that are actively seeking employment. And we're doing that through our National Career Mentoring Program. Now, it's only in the beginning stages, and we have 3 states that we're working with right now, Nebraska, Mississippi, and Maryland, of course. And we're developing the fundamental tools and the infrastructure in place that we can duplicate this across the country. So we're currently actively trying to get mentors to apply. So I need you guys. Okay, so we don't have one in Kentucky, right? But we have need for mentors for those 3 states that I talked about. And you don't have to live in Nebraska, Mississippi, or Maryland to be a mentor in this program. Many of you may realize that back in the early 2000s, we had a mentoring program in a lot of different states. And we did a really good job of that. But in that particular model, we used what's called peer-to-peer mentoring. One mentee had one mentor. And what we found through that experience is many of the mentors, for whatever reasons, sometimes fell off. And you don't want a mentee not to have a mentor. You don't want that broken rhythm, right? And just as an aside, many of the mentors were unable to continue mentoring their mentees because they got infused with the philosophy of the program, and they ended up getting better jobs themselves, and that's why they had to stop becoming mentors. So now what we do is what's called a mentoring matrix. So we have multiple mentors for each mentee. They may have 2 to 3 mentors. We try and very desperately to make sure that they have someone that's on site because there's no substitute for face-to-face interaction. But we're also recognizing that if there's a person in Mississippi who wants to be an organic chemist, and we don't have a mentor in Mississippi that knows about organic chemistry, we can reach out to someone in California who has a doctorate degree in this and have them tagged in as part of that mentoring process. So you, even though you're here in Kentucky, could serve as a mentor for someone in the existing states, and then as we grow the program, once we are here in Kentucky, because we will be nationwide, that's just the goal, we'll already have a really good database of mentors that can help. Many people say, I just don't have the time. And I know that we live very busy lives. But just understand that even if you can take an hour a month to have a conversation with one of these young people, you'd be surprised as to the impact that it could have. So I just question you assessing your ability to participate. My advice is to try get in and try it and see if it can work it out, and then if not, we'll work around it. Within the Jernigan Institute, we also making sure that we stay abreast and in front of the technology. So I'll breeze through a lot of these. Our Center for Excellence in Non-Visual Access in Education, Public Information, and Commerce, our CENA, is really kind of the new label or branding for our Access Tech area. It still maintains the International Braille and Technology Center, which is the largest repository of access technology for blind individuals, over $2.5 million worth of access tech. And it was in the past just specifically blindness-related stuff, but now we're getting a lot of crossover. You guys are absolutely familiar with the Amazon Echo because you're raffling off those. I had a friend of mine that said back in the day, this device would have been labeled a device for people with disabilities. But now it's a mainstream. You got everybody using those types of technologies. Again, our need to access information and to use technology doesn't just benefit us. It creates opportunities for others to benefit as well. In the development of the technology, we need to make sure that blind individuals are involved from conception to implementation. We have our blind users innovating and leading design. If you have an ability to use technology at whatever level, because in many instances of testing websites, you don't need to be a professional. We just need to gather user experiences. Go to the national website and sign up to be a member of the build team. And we'll send some opportunities your way, and some of them actually end up getting paid or at least giving you an Amazon gift card or something like that. We received a grant from the Maryland Department of Disability. We're really the state of Maryland. It's a non-visual access initiative grant, which allows us to do some other creative things. We've developed a real initiative around accessible academic ebooks. So you've heard maybe of our Hathi Trust, 13 million books that students and researchers can access. That will be online pretty soon. And the development of more EPUB technologies that allows our instructional materials to be provided to our blind students in a more timely, accurate fashion is also in the works. We're working on the development of a lot of different wayfinding technology. So you may have used something like Blind Square. What's the one that APH has? Nearby Explorer. So Kathy says you can access that here this weekend at this hotel for free, Nearby Explorer. So we're making sure that as these technologies are developed, that we're actively participating in the development. We created the Accessibility Switchboard, which is a portal for information for individuals and entities who don't have a clue about accessibility. So we direct a lot of the post-secondary institutions and corporations that are really, wanting to know more about accessibility to that as a resource, and that continues to evolve and develop. And I also offered that this week, just as I was coming down, we were hosting our Tactile Graphics Symposium. We're always trying to find ways for blind people to access information non-visually. Many of you may be aware of the Tactile Art Kit that the American Action Fund gave free to students. And I just love that because as a sighted child, I doodled. And, I never thought about how the blind kids do it. But, we used a lot of different little tools in that little toolbox, even something as simple as crayons. You can put what's called a substrate. It's a textured piece with bumps or whatever underneath just a regular sheet of paper and color on it with crayons, and all of a sudden it becomes more tactile. I didn't know that. And, of course, there are other things. The accessible blackboard. I used to carry one around. I don't have one. But you can take a sheet of paper, lay it on top of that, and I can use my stylus to write or draw, and it becomes tactile. I'll never forget one of our STEM experiences through STEM EQ. We had a blind kid that came in. I don't know if you're familiar with the little 3D representation of a box where you draw a square, and then you draw another square kind of 45 degrees behind it, and then you connect the corners, and visually it looks three-dimensional. We showed that blind kid how to do that non-visually, and you should have just seen that's why I love this job. They couldn't pay me enough to match that feeling that you get when you see the impact that we had on someone's life that way. That took a child who may have thought that they had no potential ability to engage in this area and started getting them thinking, maybe I can. And that's great because they'll go out to be architects and make lots of money and donate to the National Federation of the Blind. The Timbrook Library is also under the Institute. It's the biggest non-medical repository of blindness information. And it's also, Dr. Jacobus Timbrook is the namesake for one of the largest disability law symposiums in the country, and we host that. It's the Jacobus Timbrook Disability Law Symposium. We recognize that research around blindness, unfortunately, the professionals don't believe it unless it's in a peer-reviewed journal. So we created a peer-reviewed journal, the Journal of Blindness, Innovation, and Research. And we're continuing to publish information that's cutting edge around blind people and blindness. We, as an organization, of course, get solicited by researchers all the time. But only just for blind people. They think that we're the repository of blind guinea pigs for their research. And time out for that, right? We recognize that we need to help them shape the research because if we don't, they come up with all this ridiculous research. I remember my favorite is the accessible toilet for the blind. And, they said it had to be stainless steel, I don't know for what reason, had to have toilet paper dispensers on both sides of the toilet. I don't know what that's about. But, they spent money on this, right? And if they were involved with us, that money could have been spent much better to create something that's much more meaningful to blind individuals. So President Riccobono established the Research Advisory Council. It's a group of researchers that are blind and know blindness as we do. And we encourage individuals who are looking at conducting research to contact us early in the stage so we can help them with their research question, help them with their methodology, and then at the point when we come to the point of implementation, we're more prone to want to be proactive participants in that research. We still, it's coming up now, the elections are coming up. If it wasn't for the National Federation of the Blind, blind people would not have the right to a private independent ballot and the technology that it takes to do so. We have to remain ever vigilant, though. So through our HAVA, Help America Vote Act Training and Technical Assistance Center, we continue to make sure that that right is enforced. During the elections, the major ones, we usually host a hotline to make sure that we can get information from individuals. But if you have some problems with voting, please share that with Luann Blake. Excuse me. And then also we have the Independence Market. If you ever get a chance to visit, that'd be great. Right now, the e-commerce portal is down because we want to make sure we practice what we preach. Our e-commerce portal was not accessible. We're in the process of developing an accessible e-commerce portal, and it'll be online by the end of the year. So now, really quickly, I'll talk about legal stuff. And the reason I did give the legislation kind of a short term is because it is going to be talked about in more detail in the agenda. I think Kathy and others will be talking about that. So we are doing legal work. If you go to nfb.org/legal, you can get a sense of where that is. So without going into a whole lot of detail about all of these, I do think it's important for me to tell you that people contact us all the time and they say, well, why is it that some people can get, assistance from the national office, from our national office for their litigation and others can't? Well, there's far too much stuff to litigate that we don't have the ability to fund. If we spend our money on litigation, we still wouldn't have enough. So what President Riccobono is charged with, and he does this in a responsible fashion, he tries to identify those areas in that legal space that are really going to have a more systemic impact. So if there's a individual who is being discriminated against in employment by a mom and pop store around the corner, I'm not saying that their particular trial is not as important as that individual who's being discriminated against trying to get a job at the U.S. Department of Labor. But the fact is that if we're able to advocate successfully for the person that's experiencing discrimination from the U.S. Department of Labor, we're going to create more opportunities and less discrimination in the field in an area that will have a more broader impact. Again, it will also have a peripheral impact on the person experiencing discrimination at the mom and pop store. But we have to invest our dollars so that we can leverage it and reach economies of scale. So what are we doing in that legal space? Any service animal users, any guide dog users in the room? Yes. Yep. Okay, are you using Lyft or Uber? Yes. Okay, are you reporting any instances of discrimination on the? Yep. Great. Oh, well, there you go. And I also want you to recognize that we're also looking for the positive stuff too. I think that sometimes we get around, we're going to, but sometimes if they do something good, let's point it out so that can incentivize more of that behavior. We're all about behavior modification. Most of the time they think our behavior for modification is more the stick than the carrot, but we like using the carrot too. In the K through 12 space and the higher ed space, we're continually always looking for situations to improve the technology that's being used in these areas. When I was going to school, it was the blackboard, not the blackboard that you guys know today. I'm talking about the one where you take the eraser and you rub it across there. And if you were the good kid, you used to be able to go outside and clap the erasers together. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that was very accessible. No, I'm kidding. So as we move into the space where we're using more technology, we have to make sure that technology is accessible because there's no need in going backwards. No reason to go backwards because technology can be the even playing field. And then also just as a peripheral, we're also making that dog accessible. I came up in a day where Greyhound and Trailways was the way you got around from place to place. Greyhound is committed through a settlement with us to make sure that their apps and their web space is more accessible for blind individuals. Okay, so advocacy and policy, really quick. We got our space available. That's a tremendous success. Now, veterans who became disabled as a result of their service can take advantage of the space available privilege that many non-disabled veterans were able to. If there's room on an aircraft traveling from Louisville to Germany, a veteran can get in that space and fly for free. There was a point where a blind veteran could not. But now we've done that. Been there, done that, finally got that passed. It seems like it should not have taken so long, but, we're in it for the long haul. We have the long game. Also, very happy to announce that all of the different pieces that require the Marrakesh Treaty to be enforced are now in place. The president signed everything this past week. So now when there's a student out there that needs access to a French textbook that's available in French already from France, we don't have to worry about going through all of these gyrations of trying to get it or going through the process of trying to reconstruct it. We can share books across borders. Again, I look at both of these, and they're such common sense legislation that why? Why does it take so long? But again, if we weren't doing it, it would not happen. So I'm really proud, again, to be part of the organization that's creating this systemic change. Let me catch up with myself. So the pieces of legislation that we're going to talk through, I guess, later today are the Accessible Instructional Materials Act, just, again, creating guidance for higher education to make sure they provide accessible instructional materials. The Access Technology Affordability Act, that's just making sure that we can get money to pay for the access technology that allows us to be competitive. The transitioning to integrated and meaningful employment, our TIME Act, which is the extension of our fair wages, is our effort to repeal the discriminatory provision that allows employers to pay people with disabilities less than the federal minimum wage. And we're also dealing with the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Education and Reform Act. It's interesting the way that they label these bills. On its namesake, it sounds, oh, that's a great thing to do. But no, it's not. It's taking us backwards again. It's just so frustrating that, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. So we have to continue to fight. And also, it's really a hybrid collaboration between the Institute side and the advocacy and policy side. We are working on accessible autonomous vehicles. So I just want you guys to know that by this time, I would say maybe even 2020, we're going to be able to get into a car without a driver. So on the policy side, we're trying to make sure that as they develop operator licenses that they don't discriminate against blind individuals, because if the car's driving, why do you need to be able to see? I know a lot of people have angst about that, and we can talk into more situations. I love what President Ricobono says. Everybody's afraid of that, but they don't recognize that today, 100% of all automobile accidents are caused by the sighted. So we have a better record, But we're making sure that not only the policy side, but also on the technology side, we're making sure that they create interfaces that allows a blind person to get in and operate the vehicle just like any other driver of a vehicle. So there you go with that. All the things that we do, they're not for free. We have to continue to build an organization and the finances that are required. Could we do the work without a robust treasury? Yeah, but it would take so much more time to get these things done. We have to raise money. We're doing some creative things with Green Drop. I don't know if Green Drop's available in this area. No. Okay. What about the vehicle donation program? You guys are getting cars donated?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So if you have a car that you want to donate, the one that you stopped driving when you lost your sight that's parked over there on the side of the road, go ahead and donate it, raise some money for the organization. Put a little flyer in your neighbor's car. Get them to pick that up. Then they don't. No, I'm kidding. But we do get paid for those donations. I want to talk, before I get down into more of the nitty-gritty around that, the fundraising piece, not the nitty-gritty, but just the overview. There are different ways for you to get information I'm sharing today, and I'm hoping that you're taking advantage of those ways. We publish a monthly publication called the Braille Monitor. It's in print, in Braille, and online. We publish a quarterly publication, Future Reflections, that's for blind parents and teachers of blind students, also in print and online and in Braille. The presidential release, I hope that if you're attending chapter meetings that you are playing the presidential release. In all candor, when I became a chapter president, I did not. But that was because I didn't know the organization. But as I grew in the organization, because I was looking, who wants to hear about this guy named Gary Wonder? He doesn't live here in Georgia. But as I knew that and came to understand that we have a national organization and those relationships developed, we want to make sure that, one, you hear the words straight from our national president. It makes a difference. And two, you hear the news around our national organization, which, if we do it right, each and every one of us will recognize that we have an extended family throughout this country that we want to hear about on a timely fashion, whether it be new births or someone passing away or just something new about the things that I just talked about. Many of you who are listening to the presidential release, all the stuff I said was not new to you. You've heard that. I also want to let you know that this presidential release is in Spanish, and we also have a transcript for individuals who are deafblind, too, so they can access that information. We're trying more and more. Yeah, I understand. Trying more and more to try to meet the needs of all of our brothers and sisters in the movement. We have the Nation's Blind podcast. I don't know if you guys know it. I've heard some things about that. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm only kidding. I'm one of the voice personalities on the Nation's Blind. You're listening to the Nation's Blind podcast. It's very easy. If you have an Echo device, just say, Alexa, play the Nation's Blind podcast. If you have a podcast catcher or reader on your phone, just search for Nation's Blind and you'll find it. It's really nice. And we want people to listen, and not just listen, but to give feedback. There's also the Voice of the Nation's Blind blog post. We have a lot of blog posts we post around various information. And we also have our press releases that are on the web, and you can access them whenever you want. So really quickly, as I sum up, I want to highlight two fundraising components. One is our Dream Maker Circle, and that's a way for anyone to really participate. You ever heard the term, you can't take it with you? Yeah. Have you ever thought about what you're going to do with it so you can't take it? I got an idea. When you can't, you know you can't take it. So why don't you leave some of it for the National Federation of the Blind? By joining the Dream Maker Circle, you can do it through bequests, you can do it through insurance tools, you can do it through just a savings account that transfers over. It's really simple. You just commit, and it's on the honor system, pledge to the organization that you will be leaving something as a legacy investment from your value that you find in the Federation, and you become one of our Dream Maker Circle. And the beauty of that is, as we look at other funders, when they see that we as an organization and we as members are committed to that degree to fund our organization, it's a lot easier for us to get money from them. Get on the PAC plan, sign up today. We need your contributions right away. Funding our movement, it must be done, so all our battles can be won. Okay, I'm getting a sense by nobody joining in that we don't have a whole lot of PAC plan participants in this room. PAC plan is the pre-authorized contribution program. Oh, just people just shy, they didn't want to sing. That's okay, all right, good. Yeah, so excellent. We raise money through our pre-authorized contribution plan, and that's two things. One, it's a great tool for raising money for the organization, but it's also a tremendous barometer for us in our spending. We own a whole city block in Baltimore. It's worth well over $20 million. It's all paid for. There is no mortgage. We operate in a very responsible fiduciary fashion. We love telling our donors that you're not paying for any mortgage, you're not paying for any mortgage interest. All of the stuff that you are donating to this organization goes directly to help blind individuals. And the way we do that is because we depend on our members and our friends to participate. You don't have to be a member just to be a participant. Get other people outside of your network. Get your hairstylist, get your automobile mechanic to sign up. And you can donate as much as $5 a month to as much as $1 million if you'd like. Feel free. So that $5 sometimes comes from an individual who's living on Social Security benefits. And I'm not overselling this. People think that, oh, you're just over-dramatizing it. No. There's a senior out there that's having to make a decision as to whether they spend that $5 on medicine, groceries, or send it to the organization. And they're making that decision to send $5 every month to the National Federation of the Blind. So we have what we call our PAC plan test when we're looking at spending money. And we ask ourselves, would that person who's making that sacrifice want us to spend that money in this manner? Can we justify spending that money that it would be acceptable to that person? And that's true, and that's real. And in many instances, we kind of pass up on some opportunities because we recognize that it's not. But we have been able to successfully use that philosophy in order to build the organization in a way that is the most powerful organization out there as far as disability. And I love drawing this comparison really quickly. People say, oh, well, it's like Gallaudet. I said, no. Gallaudet gets a host of public funding. Our funding is all through personal and corporate funding. We don't get a lot of governmental, probably less than, 15%, I'm pretty sure. And that's intentional because we want to be, like where I come from, Hosea Williams says, I want to be unbought and unbossed. When you start accepting public money, those public entities can start telling you what to do. So we make sure that when it comes down to it, no one can threaten us by saying we're going to take your money away. So the PAC plan, we usually go through the rankings, and I just want to share with you that you guys are, thank goodness, ahead of New Hampshire. Yeah, who's giving $423 per month, New Hampshire is, and they're at 32. So you're at 31, and Kentucky is giving $430 per month. So be careful, New Hampshire may, catch up with you. Let's see who you could track down real quick, okay? Now, Kathy, you should recognize that your fellow board member, Jeannie Massey in Oklahoma, is just ahead of you, and they're only getting $442 a month. You could, and the board meeting's coming up, you can have bragging rights. Here at 29 is Michigan. Trust me, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to go through up to 500. Michigan's at 474. No problem there. I think you could dust them at this convention. Here's another board member, District of Columbia, Sean Calloway, who having their convention right now too, are at 480. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be trying to bump theirs up. But I think that you have the resources to trump them. Ooh, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. So Mississippi is at 27, and they're giving $498 per month. And then at 26, this is the one I just want you guys to beat them. Tennessee, and not because it's Tennessee, but because they're right at $500 a month. And if you guys set your goal to be, it's $517 per month. But if you guys set your goal, to beat Tennessee, at least you have bragging rights over Sean and Jeannie by the time you get to the board meeting, Kathy. I always like to talk about the top three. The top three, of course, are Virginia. They're giving $2,158 per month. And people say, wow, that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. Colorado's number 2, and they're raising $3,682 per month. And number 1, anybody guess? Can anyone guess? Maryland, $5,138. People say it this way, they say, Maryland, of course, Maryland. But everybody should share in Maryland. Because Maryland is everybody. I know I'm a transplant, so the people from Maryland would disagree with me, but I'm still a Georgia boy. But I know that when I was working in Georgia, a lot of the work that I did helped raise that money that turned into donations through the PAC plan in Maryland. So everybody should be happy that our Maryland affiliate PAC contribution is so high, and try to get it even higher. This is only just a sample of the things we've done as an organization and we'll continue to do. I hope that you guys are proud of what we're doing here, and I'm really hoping that you continue to make sure that you give input as we move forward. And I will end with this. This organization is more than just me. This organization is more than just you. It's only through our collective action that all the things that I've talked about and even more have been able to be accomplished. And it's only through that collective action of all of our participation that we'll be able to continue to eliminate those barriers that blind people face toward our desire to be fully participating members of society. And I don't know about you, but I'm filled with hope, energy, and love by participating in the National Federation of the Blind. My expectations are raised, my contributions make a difference to myself and to others, and I can celebrate my accomplishment of my dreams with my Federation family. So with all of you together, we will work together to build a Federation and transform dreams into reality. Thank you for your time and attention.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We have some jewelry and jewelry cleaner.
Reagan, Justin, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, you get some nice jewelry. And some jewelry. Oh, jewelry cleaner, all right. Have you got another one ready real quick, Karen? Oh, that's Amelia's dad. Is your dad here yet, Amelia? That's Amelia's dad, and he's not in the room. Well, she's not. Oh, no. Look who I see. Yep, Brian's here. Yay. Byron, yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Thank you, Anil, for such a rousing national report. Okay. We are now going to hear from our Bell Academy students. We are now going to hear from our Bell Academy students. I think we have 4 of them this morning, and I'm going to let Miss Jane take this portion of the program, and we'll just let the children introduce themselves. How about that?
Yeah, here you go. Just give you a second.
Awesome. Good morning. We had 6 students this year. We started out with 1 about 3 years ago, and we grew to 3, and this year we grew to 6. We have 4 with us here today, and I'm going to let them tell you their name and how old they are. All right.
My name is
Oh, you want to talk first? Okay, we'll let Addie talk.
Okay.
Here, wait. Hold the microphone. Reach your hand out.
Okay.
There you go, big girl.
Hi, my name is Addison Clarkson, and I am 7 years old. I am in 2nd grade now.
I'll ask you more questions in just a minute, okay? She's not going to give it away. All right, Kenna, how old are you?
My name is McKenna, and I'm 9 years old, and I'm in the 3rd grade.
Very nice. Thank you, sweetheart. All right. Here, hold on, Anthony. Here. Okay, now say it.
My name is
How old are you, Anthony?
7.
What grade are you in?
1st grade.
1st grade. Very good. Reach out, Colton. I'm going to hand you a microphone. Do your thing.
How?
Say it. What's your name?
My name is Colton.
How old are you?
11.
What grade are you?
6.
All right, very nice. Thank you. All right, so every morning when we started out at Bell, we read a Braille story with Miss Laura at our gathering time. And Miss McKenna here really liked the stories. McKenna, will you tell me what story you were telling me about this morning that was your favorite story?
The magic wand.
The magic wand? What was that about?
It was about this kid who went to school and nobody knows what the cane was, and she taught them what it was.
Oh, so you guys talked about how to use a cane? Did you guys maybe get a cane at Bell?
Yes.
Did you? Yes. What did you do with the canes at Bell, Addie?
Sweep. We sweep them and practice looking at our surroundings and practice how canes help us not to get lost.
Oh, very nice. Very good. So, after we did morning gathering, we did a lot of Braille, and one of our kids' favorite things was to do Braille with a slate and stylus. And Addie's going to talk again here a second. Addie one day was sitting there making her letters with her slate and stylus, and she looks up and, what did you tell us about that stylus? Do you remember?
It looks like a Braille pencil.
It was the quote of the week, I think. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm trying to use notes and a cane and a microphone. I'm apparently not that talented. Hi, Anthony. I'm coming over here to talk to you. I have a question for you. Can you answer a question for me?
I'm talented.
Yeah? Do you remember when we played the game with the 6 hula hoops? And we made what did we make with those? Did we make Braille what?
Braille letters.
We made, Anthony, say Braille letters.
Braille letters.
Yeah? Did you have to step in and out of the hula hoops?
Yeah.
What's your favorite Braille letter? I know what it is.
A.
Say it real loud in your big voice.
A.
An A for Anthony, that's right. So, we did a lot of Brailing, and we made Braille letters, and we played games in the classroom. Sometimes, though, we were not in the classroom. We went on a couple of field trips. And our very first field trip, we went to McDonald's on the bus. And Colton, what happened to us when we got on the bus? Tell us what happened.
We got on the wrong bus.
We got on the wrong bus? Oh my God. So what did we have to do?
I don't know.
What did we do? Did we stay on the wrong bus?
No.
What did we do?
Get off it.
We got off of it? And then what did we do?
Why are they laughing?
Because they think it's funny that we got on the wrong bus. It was pretty funny. So we got on the wrong bus, so we all learned that we had to ask which bus it was. And then we had to get off the bus, and then what did we have to do?
Go to the right bus.
We had to go to the right bus. And we finally made it to McDonald's, so we all learned something a little extra on our field trip to McDonald's. One of our other things that we got to do, since we were at APH, and they allowed us to do things throughout the building, was that we got to go to the APH Museum. One of the days we got to learn all about like the history of Braille and canes, but one of the other days we did something a little bit different. We went downstairs and we got to dress up, and we got to do a play. Do you remember what that play was about, McKenna? Who was that play about?
Louis Braille 6 dots.
It was about Louis Braille, that's right. And Anthony, Do you remember what character you played? Who were you? Say it real loud. You were Louie, that's right. Anthony was Louie. And the other special thing about this play was, who wrote this play, Colton? Who wrote the play?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
I believe it was a class that you might have been in was it the second grade? The first grade? What grade were you in? The 5th grade at KSB that you were in wrote the play. And so we all got to dress up as the characters, and we got to perform the play at APH as one of our field trips. So that was pretty fun. Let's see. Okay, so also within the classroom, as Anil mentioned earlier, we did a lot of daily living skills because, especially for young blind students, the things that are outside the Common Core are important. And Addie really didn't want to do cooking in the beginning, did you, Addie? No, you didn't really want to. But then we discovered that Addie had a very special job. What was your very special job, Addie?
Finder.
What did you find?
Measuring cup.
And how did you find them? What were you reading?
Braille.
Yes. So Addie, I just handed her the stack of measuring cups. I'm like, Addie, we need a quarter cup. That has a 1 and a 4 on it. Look for it. And she found all of them all the time. So she learned that she could like cooking after all. And McKenna, it turned out, was quite the expert and could pretty much, let's see. We made brownies, right, McKenna? Yeah. And what was that very special thing that you could do, even though you are only 8 years old at the time, but you're 9 now?
I cracked an egg.
That's right. You were our official egg cracker. I think you and Joshua cracked the most eggs because we made muffins and we made brownies. That's right. And Anthony, you really like making the sensory stuff. Do you remember when we made the moon sand? Yeah, you like that.
Cloud dough.
Oh, and cloud dough. Yeah, that has multiple names. Yes, it does. Do you remember when we put flour in there? What did we have to do with the big wooden spoon? What did we have to do?
Stir.
Can you say it real loud in your big voice, Anthony?
Stir.
Yeah, you had to stir it up. You had to get your fingers in there and play with it. That was super fun, wasn't it? Yeah. And on the very last day, where did we go, Colton, on the very last day to meet our parents?
Comfy Cow.
The Comfy Cow. If you don't live here, it's a lovely ice cream shop down the road. So all the kids had to walk in the 90-degree heat down to the Comfy Cow. They weren't really happy with us after that point, I don't think. Do you remember we had to cross something kind of complicated? Do you remember what that was, Addie? Do you remember what we had to cross? Remember we had to cross the train tracks?
Train tracks.
Yeah, that was kind of different with your cane, wasn't it? Crossing the train tracks. But we all walked down there with our canes, and we met our parents, and then the parents all got to meet each other. So does anybody have any questions for us?
You're welcome to ask. I have a question.
Yes.
Do you kids enjoy the Braille Academy and do you want to go again next year?
Yell it out. Oh, you do? There you go. Thank you all.
Are you done? Okay. I just had to come up here and say hi to these kiddos.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, hi, Miss McKenna. Yeah, hey, girl. Hi, it's Kathy. Okay.
We had a lot of
Hey. Okay, let me get around. We gotta say hi to these kids. We're sorry. We hadn't seen them.
Someone get a photo of it?
Do you know who this is?
Hopefully Phil or Kevin back there maybe taking pictures. Yes, I do. You are, aren't you? Oh, you're streaming. Oh.
I remember. Am I going to see you guys next year?
Sierra, that's Violet.
Yeah? All right.
And the boys and girls on the side.
You know what? I didn't realize the kids were divided. That was not on purpose.
Well, it was just called,
Just that's where they
yeah.
all went.
Yeah.
Somebody It's so exciting, Addie. You like your bell teachers, huh?
You have to come behind.
Say something so Miss Laura can find you. Tell her where you are. There you go. We talked about that a lot too. How are you gonna find something?
How are you? Good. Shake your hand. Yeah, he's my gentleman. All right.
We had so much fun, didn't we? You're coming back next year.
I'm telling you, I wonder which one of these kids is going to be future leader in this organization. Oh, well, that'll work. Mayor to president of NFB, or, you know, that's right, president of the United States, or no limitations. But, you know, this is quite entertaining, but I love to see the kids coming back each year and then showing up at convention. And, you know, we love for the parents when you come. So, okay.
I'm gonna come around that direction.
All right.
So I can get by into this chair.
Okay. All right. Are we? Okay. So, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Shh. Anil Lewis.
All right, anybody else? All right, hooray! I won! Yeah! Whoa, Chick-fil-A! Hooray! I thought I was going to get to go to the comfy couch.
Okay. Got another one real quick while we're kind of reorganizing for the next. Thank you.
I'm glad I got the wallet.
All right, Colton, go straight down the aisle.
All righty. Get one more real quick. Oh, beauty products. I don't think Cora is here. She ended up in the urgent care yesterday with a sinus infection, so it's very unlikely that she'll be here. Hey, woo! Okay. I love the enthusiasm. I love the enthusiasm, but we do need to move on and keep to some semblance of a schedule. All right, next on the program, NFB offers science, technology, engineering, STEM subjects, and offers several programs throughout over the years. And we did NFBEQ, Engineering Quotient. It's a STEM program, and it was a week of learning, and I want Taryn Seif, who participated, she's a member of Greater Louisville, to come up and tell us what she learned. Okay, you can, if you want to come behind the podium, you can. If you want to stand up front, I'll hand you the mic.
Go. You want to sit in one of those chairs and do it, or you want to? Yeah.
All right. I'll just hand you the.
Just introduce yourself. Say how old you are. Where you are.
Hi, I'm Taryn Seif. I'm a senior. I'm 17, and I go to the Kentucky School for the Blind. I went to NFBEQ this summer. NFBEQ is NFB Engineering Quotient, and it was a engineering program for blind students. It was at the National Center, and in Baltimore.
Was that your first time?
It was my first time being there ever. It was interesting. Interesting.
Did you get lost?
Yes, I got lost.
That's what we all really want to know.
So many times.
So many times.
But at least the group stayed together a lot of the time, so if I got lost, I wasn't alone most of the time.
So what kind of classes did you all do throughout the week?
Throughout the week, in the mornings and afternoons, we did classes of. For the beginning of the week, we mainly talked about the kinds of problems that engineers have to solve, and foundations and different ways to decide on what materials to use. And then later in the week, we actually had to build and design a project. Oh, we also had drawing classes, which were actually really interesting. I didn't think I would enjoy them as much as I did because I'm not usually, I'm not really into drawing because I can't see it very well, but they actually had some really amazing solutions to being able to draw without being able to see it, and so that was interesting. But we had to make a project where we drew a design for a building, and then we had to build a model of that building, and we spent a lot of time on that towards the end of the week.
Can you tell us about what your building was about?
My building was mainly a popular theme, apparently, which was like a sort of safe, quiet place where you could just hang out and calm down and, so my building was pretty small. I mean, they were all pretty small because we had certain parameters to where it had to be a certain size, but mine was a bit smaller than that. And it had, soundproof in the walls and things like that.
So I know that you guys did a lot of classes. What kind of field trips? So I know that in the evening you all did different things. Can you tell us about some of those?
So we did different field trips, and yeah. Oh yeah. So one night they gave us some money and they said, all right, we're going to let you go and to a restaurant of your choice and get some food. And so we had to figure out which restaurant we wanted to go to. We had to walk there usually we were with a group, but actually our group kind of got a bit lost, but that's okay.
It's a learning experience.
That's when you learn.
We got on the wrong bus.
That's when you learn.
Did you find yourselves?
Yes. we found the restaurant we wanted to go to, and we ordered our own food, and we paid for it, and it was really fun.
Find your way
Yeah.
back.
Yes, we did.
Okay. And I know that you guys went to some other field trips, like the
Oh yeah. So we went on a boat that one night, and we went out on the lake. It was an interesting experience.
And I noticed you keep talking about all these friends that you made. Did you make a lot of friends?
Yeah. It was interesting. I think the social aspect was probably one of the hardest things about it for me because I have a kind of hard time with social situations, and it was really a good learning experience because I wasn't with either of my parents and I barely knew anyone. So I kind of had to get to know people, and I actually ended up making friends, and we still keep in contact, so, yeah.
So, I know that you're already a member of NFB, and you're in, what divisions are you in?
I'm in the Technology Assistance Division and the Sports and Recreation Division.
And you're a member of Greater Louisville?
Yeah, I'm a member of Greater Louisville.
So, can you tell, I know that you do continue to plan on being a part of NFBS?
Yes.
Yes. So, the past 2 years, can you tell us what you did, where you worked?
I went, the past 2 years, I actually helped out with the Bell program.
Yes. She worked the entire of the Bell program.
and I hope to do it again because it was really fun.
Yeah.
Not really. Thank you for, yeah.
All right, thank you, Taryn. Now, as you see, NFB is working with blind individuals on all age levels. We start with the infants when parents come to us, and either it's a discrimination incident or maybe they're looking for the best resources for their blind child. We're available. We reach out to our students through the Bell program, through our STEM programs, and then we have our scholarship program. And we're not going to be outdone in Kentucky. We also have a scholarship program. Laura, do you want to come up and? Oh, she's coming. I can, if you want to. No. All right, come on around the table if you'd like, or you can stay in front and I can hand you the mic. Whatever you want to do. If you want to just stay in front, go back in front of the podium, do that. Just bring them up.
Okay, good morning once again. I'm always happy to have the opportunity to introduce our scholarship finalists. We actually have 2 scholarship finalists this year, and they're here with us. And it just dawned on me, as I was sitting there, that I don't know if I told them that they had to do this. So I apologize that I didn't tell you were going to have to come up here. So, I apologize for that, but you know what? We're all family here, and we want you to feel comfortable, so you don't have to be worried or anxious. But anyway, I'm happy to introduce our 2 scholarship finalists. They are actually both students at Eastern Kentucky University. They are in their first semester, and first of all is Jacob Hack. And Jacob, if you could come up and say hello to the group.
Here, Jacob, we'll just let you stand in front here and turn around and face the audience.
Okay. What am I doing? Just
Introduce yourself and say a few words.
Okay, well, she took most of my words. I'm Jacob Hack, going to Eastern Kentucky, and I'm a freshman there. It's my first year. My cane's attached to my suit. And then I'm studying to get a bachelor's degree in computer information systems. So, but I didn't have much else to say. But yeah, definitely want to thank the scholarship committee for considering me for this scholarship, and that means a lot. So.
Or he can smack me with it. Yeah, he just smacked me with a mic. I guess that's what I get for not letting him know he's going to have to come up here. So, anyway, our next scholarship finalist for this year is Amelia Lilly, and she's also a freshman at Eastern. And Amelia, if you can come up and just tell us about your potential major and things that you'd like to do.
Hello, my name is Amelia Lilly, and as we've already covered, I'm going to EKU. I'm thinking of going into like special education, or I guess more like TBI or TBI. I guess that's kind of like my end goal, but I haven't declared that as my major yet. So yeah, I just wanted to thank the scholarship committee as well. Thank you.
So anyway, we are really glad you're here. We're all excited that y'all are participating. You've asked a lot of good questions. We had some good conversation on our scholarship breakfast this morning, and Amelia and Jacob attended our resolutions committee yesterday and asked some good questions, and we're excited. I'm happy to have them here, and congratulations, and you will be seeing them again at the banquet this evening. Thank you.
Okay, I'm assuming that Cora did not make it. I don't see her. Anyway, has Dr. Metter by any chance here? Okay, I don't. He's on at 11:30, so I know he had another commitment. Well, I think we're going to have to change up the agenda just a bit then to allow for unexpected changes. F in Federation stands for flexible.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I, at this point, would just go on and give my report, the State of the NFB of Kentucky report, and then if we're lucky enough that we finish up early this afternoon, then just have more time to get ready for the banquet. The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back. These are true words. Just ponder the meaning for a few seconds. I mean, you heard Anil say that. These the 1 minute message this morning, and it bears repeating. You know, the members of this affiliate, have always done our share to continue the work of the National Federation of the Blind because we do believe so strongly in the mission and the goals of this organization. And a great deal of the work that we do and the activities that we participate in here in Kentucky have probably originated in our national office. As it says in our pledge that we made this morning, we support the policies and programs of the National Federation of the Blind. And as proud as I am of all the activities that we do on the national level, I'm just as proud of the work that we do right here in Kentucky. And that's why I decided to title this presidential report, Bringing It Home. I find it hard to believe that another year has come and gone, and we are smack dab in the middle of another convention, our 71st. Sometimes the sailing is not always easy, but we don't let that shatter our resolve. And I'm proud and honored to serve on the National Board of Directors, but I'm equally honored to be the president of this affiliate and having served in this position for 18 and a half years. The joy and pleasure that I've gained from being president really far outweighs the headaches that come with being a president. You can't possibly be president of an organization, especially the National Federation of the Blind, without a deep commitment and support of the many causes. Danielle Burton serves as secretary on the National Board of Directors of our Deaf Blind Division, but that doesn't stop her from doing her work in Kentucky. Several of us attend our national conventions each summer, and while we're there, we participate on committees. We work in the presidential suite. We do whatever is asked of us, and of course, we attend all the meetings. And every year, we have our own convention here in Kentucky, complete with seminars and social activities, speakers, resolutions, business meetings, elections, and of course, a banquet. We do a lot of eating here in Kentucky. And I remember, as many of you do, standing here hoping that we could strengthen our convention by having a convention Friday. Well, our technology division, along with entrepreneurs, our division for the blind, and Kentucky Works, sponsored this awesome job fair yesterday. I don't think all of the vendors showed up, but I think there were 6 or 7. And I believe there's some people that actually have been encouraged to set up interviews. In addition to our job fair and workshop, our TAD division continues to work with our division for the blind and our transition students to mentor them, to bring them along in the latest and greatest technology, and to prepare them for life beyond school. And this is just another way that we mirror by our mentoring what is happening on the national level. Our sports and recreation division had a very energetic scavenger hunt yesterday and got us interacting with the public, which was really the main purpose. It wasn't who won or lost, although the team I was on did come in first. I want y'all to make note. This is the second year that Sports and Rec has stepped up to help with Convention Friday. Our Sports and Rec division was established because Jane and her daughter Taryn attended a national convention a few years back and were really involved and excited about what they learned from our national sports and recreation division. So it was their goal to come home and start a division here in Kentucky, which I really think has helped us pull in our younger students. NFB of Greater Louisville hosted our luau last night, and I think they added the pizzazz that we've needed for our Friday night social. NFB of Kentucky, always makes a respectable showing at our Washington seminar. Before we go, we make appointments with our senators and congressmen. We study the issues so that we're very familiar with them and that we are well versed when we walk into the offices. And then once we're there, I can tell you we do a really tremendous job. You're going to hear more about legislation this afternoon. And while we're on legislation, and I don't want to forget to do this, so I'm just going to do it right now. I want to thank all of you who have taken the time to contact our congressmen and senators when these legislative alerts go out, because it's this continued follow-up and this constant follow-up and contacting our legislators that lets them know that these issues are important to all blind people, not just those of us who happen to be on the Hill that week. As you know, we do something very similar here in Kentucky. We try to do a legislative day where we go to Frankfort. We call to see what day most of our representatives are going to be in Frankfort, and then we set about making appointments so that we can sit down and talk with them about the pertinent issues affecting all of us. For example, we like to make it on the Hill during the budget years. We want to continue funding for Newsline. We want to continue increasing the budget for our Division for the Blind. If there's any issue of money at the School for the Blind, we like to make sure that we're heard so that they too can provide for the students there. Several years ago, our national organization deemed October as Meet the Blind Month. And although this event started out in Baltimore, it has grown to a nationwide program that features our affiliates, our chapters, and our divisions. And Kentucky is not going to be outdone. Our Greater Louisville chapter participates every year in the St. Stephen Martyr Health Fair. And we've been doing this for I don't know how many years. And every year their coordinator calls us to make sure that we want to participate. We're not calling them begging for a table. So, we must be doing something right. NFB of Greater Louisville did the candy cane program last year where we attached the little NFB sayings on the candy canes. And I think it was a great idea that we spread the word about this little project to our other members last night at the social. White Cane Day is Monday, so give your candy canes to your bus drivers, your Lyft drivers, your bank tellers, your store clerks, give them to anybody. That's what we need them to understand about white canes. And this event, brings the members of the National Federation of the Blind face to face with the public, and it's our way of showing them, hey, we're people just like you. We just happen to be blind. I believe the first ever Braille enrichment through literacy and learning program was established in 2008. And again, the first one was in Baltimore. But the bell didn't stop ringing there. And I really don't know that I could say a whole lot more about Bell than was already mentioned this morning. But I want to thank publicly, I want to thank Laura and Jane and the volunteers who spent time developing the curriculum ahead of time and keeping in touch with the parents and making the program come to fruition. Let's see, the great thing about having our Bell Academy at APH is the amazing opportunities that we have and the support that we have from the staff. They are invested in what we're doing, from everybody from Dr. Metter to Judy, the receptionist out front. What's her name? Jody. So they are just all into what we're doing, and we'll be out in the halls either going to the bathrooms or maybe doing a little cane travel, and we're trying to keep the kiddos kind of corralled and going, this is a place of work, this is a place of work. And the workers will come by and they'll say, oh, we love it. They're not bothering us. Let's see. Another thing that's really, I think, good about our program here in Kentucky is that all of us, the teachers, the coordinator, the volunteer, we're all blind. And you're sitting there saying, well, so what? But the amazing thing is the students could not believe that there wasn't one adult in that room that couldn't drive and that we were going to have to take the bus to McDonald's. And then you heard what happened. So this is as much a mentoring program as anything else. It brings young blind students or face to face with blind adults, and they know I can grow up and be a teacher of the blind like Miss Laura, or hey, I can cook, I can do that. So there is a lot to be said about having the Bell program, and we weren't so sure ours would get off the ground, as Jane mentioned this morning. The first year we had one child. We had a very abbreviated program. It was 3 days. McKenna got all of our undivided attention, so we did a 3-day program. So I don't have to tell you about the bus. We've already had a good laugh about that. We just turned it into a learning experience. We just told them that's what happens when you don't pay attention. We have a national scholarship program each year at our convention. 30 scholarships are awarded. These scholarships range in amounts from $3,000 to $12,000, and there's some other perks along the way. I'm proud to tell you that we had another finalist this year. Shane Lowe was a recipient of a $5,000 scholarship and some other money. Yeah. So Kentuckians have fared well. There are people here in this room this morning that have won national scholarships. I mean, there's Laura and Angela and Danielle and Mary and Melanie. Don't think I left anybody. But we've actually, I think since I've been president, I think I've counted up, we've had 11 finalists while I've been president. And I think there were more before that. I can think of 3 before that. So I tell you, we are noted that we do well in the national program. And again, NFBK Kentucky, we're not going to be outdone. We don't give 30 scholarships, and we don't have nearly that amount of money, but we do put our money where our mouth is. And you were just introduced to Amelia and Jacob. Any blind student in Kentucky who wishes to further his or her career, either just getting a 4-year degree, your master's, your PhD, you are encouraged to apply for both a national and state scholarship. The national application period will be open beginning November 1st, and the deadline for application is May 31st, 2019. Our NFB scholarship will be available usually around the first part of April and will run through like the middle of July. And I can't impress upon you enough to read the instructions carefully. So many times someone will be disqualified because their application was not complete. Laura Stevens is our chair. She's always been the chair in the, gosh, how many years? Probably over 21 years. So, you know, you know, my motto is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Something that I would like to do here in Kentucky that hasn't been done in a while is to have a leadership seminar. Our national office holds a seminar at least twice a year. The idea is to bring leaders and future leaders of the organization to the National Center to give these individuals a real dose of NFB philosophy, history, and a sense of belonging in the nation's oldest and largest membership organization of the blind. This year, 4 of our Kentuckians were invited. Laura and Todd went back in March, and Jane and Phil attended just this past Labor Day weekend. And I always talk with President Rick Cabono after each of these seminars, and he has nothing but good things to say about our Kentucky participants. He was pleased to see just how committed Laura has been to this organization over the last 25 years, and she doesn't show any signs of leaving anytime soon. Laura is known as a retread. She went to a leadership seminar back in the 90s, but spouses are always encouraged to attend together. We spoke about the good work that Todd is doing and what a valuable asset he is becoming to this affiliate. President Riccobono was excited about Jane's enthusiasm. He said, and I quote, "Jane's on fire." And I shared with him that the entire Seif family is involved in the Federation and how the 3 girls are active. They participate in Bell. They help with the child care at convention. They are definitely going to be with this organization for a long time. He was really impressed that Phil decided to go with Jane to the seminar, as was I. And I think Phil's pretty fired up too. I don't think he's stopped working on our website since he's got home. And while we're talking about the website, we owe a great deal of gratitude to Phil for his expertise in this area. I mean, our site looks amazing. We keep giving him content to put up, and you know, it's more up to date than it's ever been. And I'll be willing to bet that it's got to be the best, if not among the best, in the NFB. Now I've got a question. How did you enjoy pre-registering on PayPal? Yeah. Well, this system of doing business is long overdue. We had, some pitfalls and setbacks, but finally, by the grace of God, it's up and running. And it wasn't always up and running during the time that you were registering and thought everything was fine. We just had to circumvent things a little bit. And thanks to Mike Freeholm and Phil Seif and Todd Stevens, all of these puzzle pieces were put together. And each of these guys at any given time would either call me or text me, trying to keep me abreast of what was going on.
And I had no idea what they were talking about. It sounded like wah, 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 wah. Yeah. So I just would just agree with them, and I'd say, yeah, go ahead, and whatever you got to do, fix it, change it, tweak it, shut it down, I don't care. I mean, I literally had blind faith in what these guys were doing. So thanks again from the bottom of my heart. Todd Stevens will talk to us about give a Newsline report during our board meeting, but we are prospering here in Kentucky. Again, Newsline is the brainchild of the National Federation of the Blind. More specifically, Dr. Kenneth Jerningen, the late Dr. Kenneth Jerningen, a past president of the National Federation of the Blind. It was his dream that blind people would have access to timely print information. It's law here in Kentucky that Newsline be made available. Governor Fletcher signed this piece of legislation into law, but he didn't provide any funding. So we had to fight and wrangle for a few years so that we could get the money that is funneled through our Office for the Blind or our new combined agency. I think we're the Division for the Blind. The money goes through the state agency, and they in turn pay our national office. And this is the amount of money that it takes to keep the service on. Todd has managed, to get some funding for outreach to subscribers. As Anil mentioned this morning, our national organization has several publications. The one, the Braille Monitor, there are the 11 issues, and there's all sorts of information ranging from convention news and legislation, articles of a personal interest, information about technology, recipes, and everything in between. We have our Kentucky Cardinal. Now the Cardinal is edited by Laura and Todd. Canetta Freehome helps proofread, and Todd's sister Kelly, and I'm sorry I didn't get her last name, helps with some formatting.
Actually, it's my brother's wife.
Oh, your brother's wife.
Her name is Jennifer Stevens.
Oh, I thought it was Kelly. Okay, well, Jennifer Stevens, I apologize.
She's done a little bit of it too, but mainly Jennifer.
Okay. And although the Cardinal is only published twice a year, it helps us stay connected with our chapters and divisions and what's going on there and any updates in the affiliate. I was really excited that our past issue featured articles from our parents whose kiddos attended our Bell Academy. Yeah. And more importantly, it was the great things they had to say about the program. That was really, really awesome. Back in February, I decided that each month I would try to do a presidential update, and this would provide timely information in between the cardinal issues. Now, okay, I know I didn't do one in August or September, and I'm probably not going to do one in October. The Cardinal was released in August, and with all of the updates that were being posted about the convention, I thought anything that I would have to say would be redundant. Now, anything that I write is not nearly as eloquent as what President Riccobono would do, but at the same time, I kind of want to emulate what is happening on our national level. So I hope in November I can have some interesting updated news for you. Social media is how we all really stay connected. We know what's going on the national level through listservs and Facebook, Twitter, anything else that's available. Again, Kentucky, we're keeping up. Nikki Pearl is our social media coordinator. She posts pertinent NFB Kentucky information, and then she reposts or retweets any messages from the national that need to be spread far and wide. And if you want to join us on social media, all this information is in your agenda. I have to say I'm so excited to see new faces here this year, and I want to extend my personal invitation to you to continue your involvement in the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. And I want you to consider joining your local chapter and a division or two. This organization works on different levels, but make no mistake, we're one organization working collectively, because collective action is how things get done. And we do all of this through love, hope, and determination, because we will change your dreams into reality. Now go live the life you want. All the while, you better be building the Federation. Concludes my report. I think my voice is about to go. Absolutely. Good enough. If Mary Jo says so, it is. Yay! All righty. Yeah. Yes, please.
We have a can opener and something we can't identify. We think it's a bacon maker.
Oh, bacon maker? Oh, Lord.
And it goes to Denise Brown.
Oh, I don't think she's here. She'll be sorry she didn't get the bacon maker. Okay. Is Dr. Metter in the room? Oh, I see ya. There he is. Hot dog. I thought I was going to have to give that report again. We've been talking all morning about the cooperation of, and working with the American Printing House for the Blind, and I am excited to bring to the podium Dr. Craig Metter, President of the National Federation, the American Printing House of the Blind. Oh, getting all my titles mixed up here. So, Dr. Metter. You can either use this one or whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'll probably just stand here. If I start to wander, I'll grab that other mic.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, well, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. All right, yeah, you almost gave me a title I do not deserve there. And I'd be the first to raise my hand and said, no, that's taken by a fine gentleman. Anil, it's good to see you. Good to see you too. Did you tell him anything about it?
No, I saved it for you.
You saved it for me. Oh, yeah, so Anil and I was up at the NFB. I was asked to come speak at the Tactile Graphics Symposium, which was, well, thank you. That was something that's near and dear to my heart, having started out as an educator and realizing the power of being able to take concepts and then put them into graphic representation. And we've just talked a lot about the importance of good tactile graphics and opportunities for students, but even more so is in building upon those tactile graphics and providing real-life experiences that marry concepts to fuller understanding. And so they allowed me to come up, talk about one of my passions, and I really enjoyed that, and that was great. Amazing conference. Just incredible things that are happening from people, not necessarily related to our field, but just had an idea, and they're running off with ideas. We had a couple scientists, professors from University of Colorado Boulder that are doing work with these little micro robots for graphing and being able to, for bar graphs, I'll try to explain this best I can. They created this little cardboard graph, and then they had these little robots that are about the size of a quarter. And they would line the bottom of the graph with these little robots, and then they had an app that they loaded with a bar graph, and then through Bluetooth connectivity, that message gets sent to these little robots, and then the little robots would move to where they're supposed to be on the graph, representing different features of the bar graph. And it was just isn't that amazing? Just these brilliant minds that are just looking at different things. And the cool thing about that is that was just one of many. There was an astrophysicist, there who did the whole soundscape of the eclipse 2 years. Was it a year ago? Just amazing work, all under the roof of the NFB. Brought together all these incredible thoughts and just open sharing between these folks, and which I mean, just the spirit of, I mean, it was incredible. I was sorry I had to leave a day early, but it was just amazing, the kind of just creativity and organizations like the NFB that says we need to get all these minds in the same roof, talking, bringing all that expertise together so that we can do better things for the community. So that was really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. But I'm not here so much to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Anil and I got stuck in the airport together. We were both on the same flight. We took the only nonstop flight coming back on Southwest. Southwest is usually a pretty good deal. I mean, coming out of Louisville, it's probably has the most flights. But every now and then, Southwest, it's like playing with, it's like rolling the dice. And so I find out of every 10 flights, 2 of them really get bungled. And that was a night of a bungled flight. Weather, I mean, it wasn't the airlines, it was the weather. And so we ended up with a small community. There's started out Anil and I, and pretty soon we added 2 more to our community. And it was just... So the fun part of the night is like every 30 minutes they would send us out this message saying, hey, we're sorry for your flight. We appreciate your patience. And then Anil would get on and start tweeting Southwest. And basically, I don't know what he was saying. I wasn't following his tweets, but it was creating a lot of enjoyment for the rest of the crew. And then pretty soon, I don't know if you were asking them to call you, but they would call him, and as soon as he'd answer the phone, they'd hang up on him. So it was like this 4.5 hours of this. It was a game. It was like every 30 minutes they're updating our flight status saying, hey, you're still delayed. So he'd start tweeting again, and pretty soon they'd call him. He'd answer, they'd hang up on him, and it was just... But it made it was a great company, and it was just a fun. It couldn't have been more fun experience, I guess. If you have to sit in it, if you have to sit in an airport, and we had this guy named Brian who was just Mr. Optimism. My gosh, he was. But he went and got us all cinnamon rolls and brought those back, so that was kind of cool. But he's like, well, life could be worse. We could be out there sitting on a plane for 4.5. Life could be worse, and life could be. And it's just like, yeah. It did work. It kept our spirits up, and so it was good. It was all good. But a little bit about APH. It's been 2 years since I've talked to you last, and that was in my first year of the presidency last time I came to talk to you all, and I was talking about changes that were coming. And we did. We put together a new strategic plan, and so I kind of want to just highlight what that plan means and where we are going, and then there should be some time for some questions when we're done. But when we sat down with our board and we unpacked everything. We unpacked 40 years, all of Tuck's presidency and all the strategic plans that had gone on before, and we did I think a fairly deep dive and assessment of how we've done. And there's a lot of successes. We had some setbacks and some failures, but overall we felt really good about the agency. And we felt like we had done a good job of getting our core mission down, and then our core mission has been for about 100 years. Has been the focus on the K through 12 education space, providing educational materials and services to promote independence. And we had met that goal pretty well. We had seen kind of a up and down growth with the federal government. Not as aggressive as we would like. We always would like more money to make more products and get more opportunities for consumers out there. But the board came back, which was very surprising, and they said, okay, you got this. All right? Time to keep doing that, but we want you to grow a little bit. And the challenge they put to us is they said the fastest growing population of people with blindness and visual impairment, of course, are seniors. and you are not doing a darn thing for seniors. Some of your products work, but a lot of your products aren't geared for that. So they put out a challenge, and they basically said, you as a company need to get into that space, find out what the needs of adults are, and start doing your best to meet those needs. Yeah, and I'll second that. Amen. That was a scary challenge, because they didn't say we're going to give you more money to do that. They just said make it happen. The other thing they said is you need to do a better job for parents. Birth to 5. You need to get into that space, and not just with products, but with services. You need to start connecting the idea of APH to parents who are navigating those waters of when they find out their child has vision loss and how best to deal with that. And basically tell them, like, hey, it's going to be okay. And get in there and get them resources, products, and things that they need. So those are 2 very tall orders. And so we began planning for that. So we did get a chance to add a few more staff to help us focus on that. But we began down that road. The other thing that they challenged us to do is they said, you're the American Printing House for the Blind, but we believe we've got products that are good not just for kids in the United States, but all over the world. So they wanted us to start trying to make those international connections, because we're a nonprofit. So the reality of a nonprofit is at the end of the year, you have no profit. So any profit that comes in goes right back out to students. Well, when we looked at the economics of our budget, the reality is when we stay just in that K-12 education space, that's pretty much a capped, it's just kind of there's not a good growth model from there, because we pretty much have expanded that model as big as it'll go. There you go. Appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not an economics major, so I appreciate that. Diminishing returns. You can keep throwing money at that, but you're not going to make more money because you've exhausted your market. So if you really want to grow profit, you got to find new markets. So they suggested that if our end goal is to make more profits so that we can give more money away to consumers and students, the only way you can do this is by expanding markets. So they said you need to start looking at international markets. You need to start looking at areas you haven't been before. So I came from the world of education. I'm not a business guy, but luckily I have smart business people working with us, and we began that plan. We got that plan all mapped out, and then we are just starting to enact that plan. And it is scary. It's both, but it's exciting. And we're now starting to talk about distributorships with other countries and trying to figure out how we can get our products out to other countries as well. And so that's a good thing. The other thing we did is Gary Mudd. Most of you know Gary Mudd or know of Gary Mudd, and Gary Mudd is my sage. So every time I think I'm crazy, I go talk to Gary, and he tells me, "Yes, you are crazy," or "No, things are fine. Just keep moving forward." So Gary is my counsel. He's also our VP of Governmental Affairs and Community Service, and Gary says, "I want to rework the campaign." He says, create a new campaign. So part of Gary's job is he goes to Washington probably 8 or 9 times a year and we try to meet with senators and representatives. Usually you end up meeting with one of their deputies or many times their interns. And that's not a knock on interns. These interns are very sharp, bright people. And sometimes you do better getting your message to the intern because they're full of passion, and if you can get them on fire, then they find into the senator, because usually I guess the way it works, I've never been in the room when that happens, is there's a briefing with the senator. And they go around and things get written down, and so that the senator has talking points or they understand the lay of the land. So these interns sometimes are our best allies in getting our messages to the senators. So Gary basically said, we're going to rework our campaign. We're going to really focus our campaign. He and Nancy created the Keep the Promise campaign. And it basically said, you promised years ago, going way back to 1879, that you would provide adequate funding for students who are blind or visually impaired. And you haven't done that. So it's time to pony up. It's time to start putting more money towards the quota, the appropriation. And they basically, it's just like a little 3-page on print kind of leaflet, and you open the inside and it basically says, here's the disparity in education. On the right, it's like, this is what it costs for a sighted student to take math class, and it says, basically shows the products that a student would use in algebra, and on the other side it says this is what the products that are needed and the costs associated with a blind student taking the same class. And the difference, of course, are staggering. When you talk about textbooks and having a speech software and a talking calculator and all the other devices that are necessary to provide equity in education, the price tag is staggering. So they got in. We got to the right. I think we got to the right people with that campaign. We were also able to get some additional messages in with some other departments that we haven't been in the past. We got to talk with some of the higher-ups at the Department of Ed. We were trying to get a meeting with Betsy DeVos. That didn't happen. We got a meeting with some people just a couple rungs down lower. I think that was helpful. And the end result is last year, Gary and the team were able to get a $2 million increase, which was nice. And this year, we got a $3 million increase. Yeah. So that's the beauty of having a wonderful team to work with, and hiring smart people, or being fortunate to be connected to smart people who know what they're doing and getting out of their way. And so we are thankful for that. We're hoping we can sustain that level of growth. I would love to see another. We've already submitted our budgets for 2020. We always have to submit those 2 years in advance on our federal budgets, and then we go and we fight for budgets. So that's some of the things that are going on. So that helps us in that education circle, keeping our programs happening. The other piece, we talked about international sales. We talked about increasing funding. The other piece that happened wasn't anything that was planned. This was one of those things that sometimes I think when you're living right, stars align, or whatever you want to ascribe it to, whatever your belief system is. I have mine, and I think someone was looking out for us as a company. I think if you're out doing the right work and doing the good work, it's like good things come. And so we had we had to get into the space of adult services and family services. Meanwhile, a good friend of mine, Kirk Adams at the American Foundation for the Blind, they were going through this strategic plan of their own. And they had some big challenges in front of them as an organization, and they knew they had to narrow their focus. If they were going to be effective and be able to live within budgets, they had to narrow their focus. So I got a phone call one day, and it was like the clouds parted and the sun shone, and he basically said, I need a home and would like you to consider taking on the AFB family of websites, Career Connect, Family Connect, the Helpline, and a Braille Bug, and a few of the other ones. And it's just like, because originally I was looking at how are we going to get into adult space? It's costly to get into a market you've never been before, because you have to do a lot of friendship building, you have to do a lot of relationship building, and the way you do that is you show up and you start trying to make connections. Well, travel is costly, events are costly, so when we first started running the numbers, we're like, my gosh, that's a lot of money to make friends. It's just like, yeah. And that sounds awful, doesn't it? I felt like I was the odd kid at school giving people my lunch money so they would like me. It's just like, well, it's gonna cost money. I was that kid, by the way, but that's a story for another day. That's okay. I made it up on the back end because I sold my mom. Mom made a great lunch, and I would sell my lunch, so I usually came out on the upper end on that. So, but anyhow, And so this was an incredible gift. This was an incredible gift, and basically basically they said is, don't screw it up. We're trusting you with all these people who need resources and services, but they basically said, if we give this to you, we need you not to screw this up. And it's like, okay, that's a tall order. That's a tall order. So we began that process. We began that plan. So we're in the process right now. Several of the websites have got to be deconstructed and reconstructed because they're built on, you guys are talking about your new website. Kudos to you. But for those who deal with that kind of stuff, websites are magic to me. I don't understand technology. I'm a low-end user. I do have an iPhone, but I couldn't tell you how to code anything. But anyhow, the websites, what I've been told, are built off of code that goes back into the 90s, and is held together with duct tape and baling wire right now. So they have to be. They're rich with content, so we have to capture all that content, save it, and reconstruct these websites so that they'll work with our new website, which should be launching in about 3 weeks. So that's a lot of work. So right now we have they used to be the AFB websites. They brought them under APH, but as my tech people says, is we have them propped up. The information is there. People can go and access that information. However, they don't connect real well with our new websites coming up. That's going to take some more structure. I just trust people. I just say, okay, just tell me what you need, and we'll get money somehow to make that happen. So, but that is going on. So those are the changes. The other big thing we did at APH, which did create some heartburn within our own staff, especially some of our staff who had been there 20 years and 30 years and 40 years, is we rebranded. And rebranding, sounds kind of scary because it's, and what we told people is our mission isn't changing, our vision isn't changing, our strategies we outlined in our strategic plan aren't changing. Basically, it's all this. We're still APH. We still know what we're doing. We're doing the same stuff we've been since 1879. The difference is in the branding. The branding was our message had grown stale. People weren't listening to us anymore. People weren't coming to the booth. It's like, oh, it's APH. You know what? And the other thing at APH is we had kind of a reputation too, which we're trying to change. And that is, I ordered my products and they didn't show up on time. And then people get mad and they say, well, it's APH, what do you expect? And I said, that's not good. There's a lot of forgiveness in this field, which I really appreciate. People are gracious and they're kind, but we need to do better. We got to do better. So we're putting in, behind the scenes with our production team, we're putting in all these new structures that are going to try to fix that. That's going to take probably 18 months before we see the fruit of that labor. But reducing back orders, reducing wait times, and changing this whole persona of APH is, well, you got to realize, I kind of felt like at times we're a general store. We have everything under the sun, but when you came in, you had to come to the front desk and say, hey, do you have this product? And they say, well, yeah, we have it. It's way in the back. It's tucked up on the top shelf behind the kerosene lanterns, and but if you wait a minute, someone will go back and pull it down because it's way in the back. You will never find it. And that's the way our website's set up. There are some things you'll never find on our website unless you pick up the phone and call customer service because of the structure. Our new website is going to be more of an Amazon experience, so it's like, all right, we need to change our mentality. So this was part of the rebranding. Part of the rebranding is basically saying we're going to do business differently. We're going to be more customer focused. We're going to be more responsive. We're going to be more transparent. And we're going to try to improve our practices. So that's a lot that's going on with the branding, and but that did cause some concerns because people are like, well, we're getting rid of we changed our color scheme. So that's part of branding too. It's the smallest part of branding is you change your color sometimes. Sometimes you'll change your tagline a little bit, and then. It was really funny because our logo just has an APH. Our logo that we've had for 50-some years just says APH. It's just this circle, and then there's an A, and then there's a P and an H, and they all fit in the circle. And I had people come to me and say, you know, so the new logo came out, and people are like coming to me and saying, you know, I just have heartburn over the new logo. I said, it's the same logo. We changed the color from blue to black, you know. So the background is black and the colors are white. They said, but it doesn't say For the Blind on there. I said, have you looked at the old logo? The old logo never said For the Blind either. But I said, you know, so... And I'm not saying that to make fun. What I'm saying is they just, because of the APH brand, they always associated APH and they would just finish the sentence. American Printing House. They saw APH, said American Printing House for the blind. So I said, people will do the same thing with the new logo. It still says APH. It's still in the same shape. We cleaned up the lines a little bit, but it's the same thing. And people will finish that sentence because we're not changing who we are. We're not changing our mission. So we just, you know, people are now starting to embrace it. They like it. The other thing we did is we worked with a company to develop a lot of kind of statements. I don't know what you call them. I don't know if you'd call them so what statements or if then statements. But basically it was, you know, one of our taglines was welcome everyone. And people are like, well, that doesn't mean anything. Welcome everyone. And it's like, it means you think about it, it's like, well, you know, surf, think, well, welcome everyone. What does that mean? That, you know, so when people say, well, what does that mean? It says, you know, we're APH, you know, this idea of welcome everyone or everyone's welcome, that's more than just hospitality. That's an expectation. That's an expectation that everything we do has accessibility built in from the get-go. And you should expect nothing less. And if we do something that's something less, then shame on us. But welcome everyone. That's our tagline. The other things, we've used a couple other quotes that have been kicked around this field. You know, some are attributed to different great individuals within the field, but that idea is the people who say it can't be done shouldn't get in the way of the people who are doing it. So we just been pushing out a lot of these little statements, you know, things like fear less. Which is not so much. It's a double-sided mission for APH because it's like sometimes we haven't moved on products because we're thinking, I don't know that we can pull that one off. That's going to take a lot of money, time, resources. I don't know if it'll work. And it's just like let's fail, but let's fail fast and let's fail big, and then we'll learn from our mistakes. But the other thing too is that's a message to the outside world. It's like blindness is nothing to fear. Get over yourself. You know. Don't worry about hiring somebody who's blind or visually impaired. Get over yourself. This is, you know, it's time to change your arcane ideas and open yourself to some new possibilities. So we're doing a lot of these things, and you know, some people say, well, yeah, that's just kind of pithy ideas and pithy things you're throwing out, but it's more than that. It's statements I truly believe. I think it's statements that most of our staff truly believe. And it's just a good way to sum up our message. And that's been the biggest part of our branding, is trying to be a little more active in this space, moving away from the waiting for people to come to us to get solutions and answers, but basically going out there and saying, hey, businesses, we've got solutions and answers for you. Hey, school districts, you have a responsibility. Hey, community at large, we want you to know that we're here. And a lot of that we've just kind of also changed our structure is, this is more on the community level, so some of you will appreciate this too, is we are a national company. And people know us on a national level, but our own neighborhood did not. And that's a sad statement. So when we had about 90 staff, I opened it up to everyone. We had 90 staff showed up, and I said, okay, we took an afternoon. We said, we must be an agency of impact. So we started at the world level. What could we do at the world level, at the national level, you know, at the state level, at the community level? And when we got down to community level, that's where we found that other than providing jobs, which is important, we hadn't done much for Louisville. We hadn't done much at all, which was kind of we're historical, and we're on a museum tour stop, but we hadn't done much for, especially if you look really close community, Frankfurt Avenue. What had we done for Frankfurt Avenue? Not a lot. So much so that I live within walking distance of APH, and my neighbors on the street, Several of them, when I first took the job, maybe I told this story 2 years ago, my next door neighbor who was an educator, he says, well, how does a former principal of a school run a print house? And I said, you have no idea what that is? And they said, no, they'd lived there 10 years. They had no idea what APH was. And it's just like, so we knew we had work to do. And so we started, so we become better community members. Everything from being in the Frankfurt Avenue Easter Parade and being a sponsor of that to showing up at the Pegasus Parade and having a float in the Christmas Parade, and just small things, but sponsoring some community events and getting our name out there, being a part of an initiative. But then we had an opportunity, which was, once again, brainchild of some brilliant staff. Some of our technical people, the TPR, which is one of our all-star teams at APH, led by Larry Skukon and a few others, started developing an app years ago called Nearby Explorer. And Nearby Explorer is, for those who have used it, I know there are many apps out there, some, but it is widely used. Nearby Explorer, as of today, has, I want to say it's over 11,000 users, which is good. The amazing thing about this, and this wasn't planned, there are 4,000 users in India. In India using Nearby Explorer. Yeah, when we ran the analytics, we're going, what the heck is going on? We never intended that, but this was great because it ties in with our get into the international market space. The other thing the thing about that is we started moving into the indoor space with that, trying to solve this great equation of making spaces, interior spaces, more accessible so that you can travel, getting information mainly through pairing with Bluetooth beacon technology. So we had started this practice and so Larry and his team said, well, we want to reach out to Crestwood Library just up the street, see if we can't, some of our members there who are blind, use that space, see if we can't map that space. So they agreed. We came in and mapped that, had some failures, had some successes, and then we said, okay, well, we want to do another one. And then one of our grant writers said, you know what, why don't we go for a grant? We'll go for a grant. And so we went around to about 25 agencies and said, let's write a memorandum of understanding. If we get this grant, you'll let us come in and map your public space at no charge to you, but we need you to be a partner because that means you will keep those beacons up and you'll continue to help us with our mission. We didn't know if we'd get the grant, but we landed a large grant which paid for all of that, which was fantastic. And then, so we're going, well, how are we going to roll this out? We have no idea. We'll get started. So I was at the Mayor Fisher's. They do several things with the Rotary, and every now and then I go to the Rotary meetings, and I was invited to a Rotary lunch that day. And I apologize for forgetting her name, but it's kind of the mayor's right-hand person. She was speaking about a compassionate city and the impact they were going to have on Louisville. And so Gary and I were at that, so we went up to her afterwards and said, we're going to make Louisville the most accessible city in the United States within 5 years. Are you on board with us? And she says, what are you talking about? And I said, this is what we're talking about. We want to address indoor navigation. We think we got the outdoor navigation thing licked. We want to tackle transportation, and we want to talk about media on demand. And she says, yeah, that's exciting. So the next day, Gary's at a meeting with the mayor, and the mayor was doing his round table, and the mayor, in the middle of his speech, he was talking about what Louisville is doing, and he got up, he says, and we're working with the American Printing House to make Louisville the most accessible city in 5 years. And Gary texts me right away. He goes, you won't believe what Mayor said and this and that. And I'm just like going, oh, crap, it just became real. Because we had no plan. We had no plan. We're just like, we were flying by the seat of the pants. We're dreaming big and saying, we're going to make it the most accessible city, but we have no plan. And then the mayor says, yes, we're on board. Tell us what to do. And then so we're like, okay. So it just kicked it into high motion. Well, the nice thing about that is today we have first thing we did is said, well, we got to define what true accessibility is. And so we started thinking, and we stopped ourselves. Okay, so this was 2017. I said, wait, stop. We can't move forward with this because, even though it's APH thinking about this, so we got to talk to the people who live this every day. So I contacted Mark, President Rick Abono, and I contacted Eric Bridges, and I contacted the AER, and I said, you all have conferences coming up. Would you allow us, and I know that most of these groups don't do this usually, I said, we are trying to talk. We just want to talk and interview people who are blind and low vision, who travel, who are active, and say, what are the biggest bugaboos? And so at the 2017, and we got permission from all three, so at the 2017 annual conferences, we went in there and just interviewed. We interviewed over, I think, close to 700 people who are blind or visually impaired, got data saying, what needs to be mapped, what doesn't need to be mapped, what's the biggest issues, and all this rich data. And then we took that and working with U of L and another one to get all that information analyzed. And once we have that, we just got that information back last week, and then we're having a meeting to unpack all that in 2 weeks, and then that's information we will share with all the agencies that helped us out gather that information. But what we wanted that to do was to drive our mission. It does us no good to say, we think these are the things that will make Louisville the most accessible city if it doesn't really represent the community we're trying to serve. So we have that information now. We have a plan in place. The first thing we started with was indoor navigation. So we have 20 buildings identified to be mapped. So things we have mapped, we have indoor navigation at the airport. We have it at the Fraser. We have it at the Science Center. We have it at the Muhammad Ali Center. We have it at the 21C Hotel, because that was a show-off piece for the mayor. We have it at Kentucky One Arts Performing Center. Then they had a fire, so now we got to go back and redo that one. We have it at the McDowell Center. We have it at APH, of course. We have it at the Crestwood Library. We have it at the Walgreens on Frankfurt. And then we have this laundry list of people that want it, which is fantastic. And we get more calls all the time. We've had phone calls from as far away as North Carolina saying, can you come out? We've had other airports saying, can you come out and map this for us? We have had inquiries from big companies like Walmart, Procter & Gamble, and a few of these others that are interested in possibly bringing this into their workspace. So we are just kind of, once again, we are scrambling to make that happen, and we're putting together a structure that is going to allow us to be more responsive to these communities. The other thing we've been doing, too, is with the field as general. I mentioned Nearby is just one app. There are many, many companies out there that are doing apps. And we had a wonderful opportunity last year to sit down with, I think, 6 of the most major players at a conference. And we just all sat around breakfast and we said, okay, can we all agree that we're going to standardize our beacon technology? And what I meant by that is, right now, if you are in Sweden, which is basically done by Blind Square, if you take our app there, chances are our app will not work there with their beacons because of proprietary beacons. The addresses. Once again, I don't know technology, so forgive me if I'm really butchering this, and you know better than I. Just say, well, that poor man doesn't know what he's talking about. But beacons can be proprietary. You can set them up as proprietary to a specific app. And so this is what's going on right now is throughout the country as different companies are doing little sections. And there's not a lot happening right now. But we just start having a conversation saying, we want this to be in the hands of the consumer. We should just be responsible. If all of us take the mission that we're going to map the world, we're going to map the world, and then we can just let consumers say, I like this app. I like app A best. And someone else might like app double T best, or someone likes Blind Square, or someone likes Sendero, or someone likes Wayfinder, or someone likes Right Here. It doesn't matter what app you use. You should just be able to travel. And if we share those maps and share those beacon POIs, then everyone should be able to pick that up so that you're not having to jump between different apps as you travel. So we had a great spirited breakfast conversation that ran almost up to lunch. And then what we said is we need to bring all these minds together for a bigger meeting. So we are planning one of those right now where we're going to bring all those different groups and representatives from different agencies together just to talk about indoor navigation space. So that'll be happening soon. So we're excited about that. So lots of things. I'm starting to ramble, and I apologize for that. It's kind of just have this conscious stream flowing out of ideas, and it's why I have an incredible assistant who keeps me focused. But that I tell you all that to tell you that there's a lot of things going on at APH, and it's a lot of direction and a lot of movement in multiple directions, and it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time for this field. Oh, one last note. Here we go, stream of consciousness again. The other thing, and I know some of you are part of this meeting too, are hoping, we have started to have those conversations with TARC, which is, we're asking them to start considering doing more of a model like, one of those things similar to Boston. Boston has this wonderful model. Yeah. We would like them to consider different ways. This idea you got to plan your routes 24 hours in advance and then wait. That's just nuts. In this day and age, with all the ride share services available, it's a simple solution. Other cities have already figured it out. Yeah. I mean, like I say, multiple minds are, different cities are figuring this out. There's no reason why Louisville can't get on board with that too. So, we're asking them to consider certain things. So. But we're making progress there as well. So anyhow, get that one off. I think I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll just put a pin in that. Yes, a question.
Well, none was a comment, one's a question.
Okay.
Could you talk a little about the role APH played regarding the orbit and the consortium where you all were able to get that award for people that may not be able to afford some of these high-priced pieces of equipment? And also, is there anything being done about things like the refresh braille or bookboard or some of these that get really a lot of hype and marketing and all of a sudden they sort of wind down and then they're allowed to die? Is there anything being done to address that?
Yes. Yes, the question was talk a little bit about Orbit, how that all came together, and the award we received from the FCC, and then also talk about products like Bookport and Refresh a Braille, and there's hype, and then those things run a product cycle, and then they start to fall off. So we'll talk about the positive. The Orbit reader is we're starting to receive that. I mean, this has been the great, when's it going to get here? And this was not our fault. So the Orbit reader, there was a 11-member group, including APH, NFB, and a bunch of other RNIB which is out of London, Great Britain, CNIB, Canada National Institute for the Blind, and a whole bunch of others got together and said, we're willing to put up money to fund research with the goal of creating a Braille device, a Braille note taker, refreshable Braille, that would be less than $500. That was the goal. So after many, many dollars contributed by all these major groups, the prototypes were done in May of 2016. We announced that the Orbit would be ready to go to sale. We were expecting that in September of 2016. And then life happened. There's a rule in technology is when you think you're done, you're not. So a kind of reset. So, but the leader of the group, or the spokesperson for the group, was this British gentleman, Kevin Creary. I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure of meeting with Kevin. Kevin is a brilliant mind. He has multiple degrees in everything, and he is very, very British in ascribing to the idea that Britons are just somehow smarter than the rest of the world. Yes. And fascinating man, but he was... he loves to talk. I'll just leave it at that. He loves to talk. He made a lot of promises that we are... what is that? Don't write a check with your mouth that your butt can't cash. Yeah. He wrote a lot of checks. So, that summer, worst monsoon in India in decades wiped out almost the entire plant that was producing the Orbit reader. They lost prototypes. They lost machinery. They lost... so they had to totally rebuild, restructure, and reset. Fast forward, then we had pin issues, we had this issue, that issue, as they had to recalibrate new stuff. Then the motor supplier, because all these refreshable braille displays are powered by these teeny tiny nano motors, and the company that was doing that went belly up, and so we had to shop for a new motor thing. So Orbit Research is doing all this. And then we finally started to get the first units, and we were having a failure rate of 17%. I said, no. I said, we had to get 500 units in with less than a 3% failure rate. And until we had that, we weren't going to release it for sale. So we finally, the good news is that took us the bad news is that it took us a long time to get to there. But we kept sending things back. And we were doing crazy things like the Orbits would come in, and we would take 20 of them and put them in a deep freeze for 20, 30 days, then pull them out, power them up, see if they fired up, and then we were exposing them to heat, and so they were doing all this in India, then they were doing it at the lab in Boston, then we were repeating those experiments at APH best we could. Our deep freeze is actually a freezer, so it's, we wrap them in, put them in a Ziploc bag, throw them in the freezer for 20 days, and see how they hold up. But it was very important to us that if we were going to put out an item such as the Orbit, that it had to work. It could not fail, because people just don't have that kind of money to say, all right, well, it's only $500. So the world doesn't work that way. So good news is eventually we got all those things worked out, and on the last 600 units that have come in, our failure rate has been less than 1/4% of 1%. Yeah. Now, I'll take that applause back to Orbit. That was Orbit finally getting it all dialed in, and we're starting to see those things come in about 250 units every 3 weeks. Which is fantastic, and we have sold probably 1,500 units so far. So they're coming out now. They are reliable. We've got if somebody does get one that doesn't work, we can get that replaced quickly. We have a quick stock on hand so that you don't have to send it in and wait for the repair. We said no more nonsense like that. Someone's unit fails, send it in. We're sending you another one right away. We don't want to. It used to be the old APH way was send it to us, then we'll send it out for repairs, and when it comes back from repairs, you'll get it back. And sometimes that would leave people without a device for weeks on end, and enough of that nonsense. We can't do that anymore to customers. So changing that. So that's the good news. Orbit is well on its way. It's doing well. Products like Bookport, we're still doing Bookport. We still have Bookport. It's up for sale. Refresh Braille 18. The company that did that for us went belly up last year. That was an interesting. International companies are very interesting, and they were also providing us with the Visio book, Refresh Braille 18, and I got this long story for another day. Someday, that's a 3-beer story, full of intrigue and suspense, but. Bottom line is that the company went belly up. It was sold to another company in Germany, but the two pieces of software or the two pieces of technology that we purchased from that company were under a separate intellectual property patent held by the previous owner. So when they sold the entire company, they were able to sell everything except those two pieces. And he's still holding on to those, so they are not available to us anymore. And so we're thankful that the Orbit is now coming out and is available. We have no way to repair the Refresh Braille 18. That was part of it. Much the same way we had no way to repair the Visio book 18 and not Visio book 18, the Visio book last year. And so when we found all this out in January of last year, met with the board. I said we got to do right by the customers, and the board said absolutely. So we put this out to anyone who owned a Visio book, saying, if you have a Visio book, first of all, bless you and Lord keep you, because we can no longer get repair parts. We can no longer fix this. But we made them an offer. We said, if you want to, we'll buy it back from you. And now if this is 5 years old, we couldn't give you full retail price, but we would say we can give you this much. But basically saying we don't want anyone to be stuck with a product that they can no longer get repaired. And so we had set aside a lot of money. We figured we were going to be in the millions of dollars in buying these things back, but it was the right thing to do. Fortunately for us, we never even got close to that. Most people said, you know what, we appreciate the offer, but we're going to take our chances with the equipment we have, and we'll just use it till it dies, and then we'll do something different. So, but we did buy back quite a few. We did buy back quite a few devices because, once again, this is kind of our change in our brand is like, we want to make sure we're not sticking people with products that aren't going to work. Or, we don't want to, if someone bought one from us and it's like, it breaks down next year and they're just stuck, that's a lot of money. We don't want to do that. So, what's that?
My understanding is there's the last few book ports and desktop ports.
Bookport Desktop is one that is the desktop version. We have a few left of that. That was a manufacturing issue, as well as that was a pure economic version. I thought the desktop version of the Bookport would be a huge seller. It didn't. It did not move, and so that was an economic decision. Sometimes, almost. That was basically, that was a decision I made before I got there. The Bookport itself, though, that we're working with, I'm going to say the wrong one. Well, the Bookport. We're still doing the Bookport, and we just did I thought we did an upgrade. I don't have a spreadsheet in front of me here, so I might be telling truth out of school. So we know that, but I know that we're still selling that one. And then someone else was saying, I heard you're no longer selling the calculators, and that's not true. We're still selling the calculators, but we are in the process of upgrading all the Texas Instrument TI-84 talking calculators and the TI-30. So we're working with negotiators, right? We're negotiating price points and working with manufacturers to get that all done too. So it's amazing bits of information. Social media is an amazing thing. Information goes out. Pieces of information and holes. Any other questions about APH products? Questions about products? Questions about? I threw a lot of stuff at you, and some of you probably tuned me out 25 minutes ago, and that's okay. I don't take offense to that. That's absolutely okay. But I love talking about what we're doing and all the work that's going on. And it's like I said, I get energized. I'm excited about the things we're doing, and But I think it's good. All right, I'm done, I guess. Thank you, Kathy.
Just a quick announcement. We will go to lunch. When you go out this door, make a right and go in the next door on your right. They're box lunches. If you ordered a lunch, there will be people there helping pass them out. You'll have a choice between chicken salad on croissant or a chicken club with bacon. So you have the choice. There is one gluten-free meal. I think it's a rice pilaf. So I guess at this point, we are adjourned and we will have lunch. And during lunch, we will do the open board meeting. So, and we are going to catch up on door prizes too when we get back. No, I think you meant the reverse raffle at lunch. We're behind
I'm Barbara Martin. Amy's lived with me while she was with APH. It's good to see the face. Nice. Yeah. This is Chris Ziegler. Chris, hi. Nice to meet you. Sure. Chris is a bit of a techie guy himself. Yeah. I remember years ago.